Chapter 1780. Almost everyone thought that Qinglian's true body had already died in the 9 heavenly tribulation. Only Wu Dao's true body and the Dragon Phoenix true body knew that Qinglian's true body was not dead. The three true bodies could sense each other. Wu Dao's true body and the Dragon Phoenix true body could sense that the aura of Qinglian's true body was in the blazing lightning tide. However, even Wu Dao's true body did not know how Qinglian's true body could survive the lightning tide. Suddenly, Wu Dao's true body exclaimed softly. Even with the bronze square tripod, the Dragon Phoenix true body was nearly destroyed by the 9 heavenly tribulation. Although he survived it, his aura was weak, and he almost lost half his life. But now, the aura of Qinglian's true body was gradually rising. Something's wrong. Right then the storyteller old man also noticed something amiss. He stared at the lightning tide in the distance and frowned. If Qinglian's true body died, the lightning tribulation should have dissipated. Why is it still surging? Everyone focused their gazes as well. In the blazing blue tide, a strange yellow light was faintly discernible. Gradually, the yellow light became clearer. Everyone's eyes widened. In the lightning tide, there was a bare green lotus platform floating. On the lotus platform sat Su Zimo's essence spirit. Although the creation lotus platform was drowned by the 9 heavenly tribulation, Qinglian's essence spirit did not die. Strange. An emperor whispered. Qinglian's branches and leaves have withered and her lotus petals have shattered from the impact of the lightning tide. All that's left is a dilapidated lotus platform. How can it protect her essence spirit? Look. Another ruler noted. There seems to be a yellow light shield around the Fate Lotus platform. It looks like yellow sand is spreading around it. Just now, the strange yellow light that everyone saw was reflected by the yellow sand. What is this thing? It can actually withstand the baptism of the 49 heavenly tribulations? It looks very ordinary, as if it's just a piece of lus. All the emperors were bewildered. Even with their knowledge, they didn't know what this lump of yellow sand was. At this moment, even the divine sense of Wu Dao's true body was unable to penetrate the barrier of the yellow sand. The green lotus true body actually experienced the greatest transformation in the lightning tide of the 9 heavenly tribulation. Su Zimo's Qinglian real body had long since grown to peak rank 8. Even though he later obtained many opportunities and comprehended peerless abilities like burning the heavens and boiling the seas, Qinglian's true body showed no signs of breaking through. Su Zimo wasn't sure how Qinglian would break through and reach the 9th level. And in the process of transcending tribulation, Qinglian's true body was baptized by the thunder tribulation and constantly fused with heaven and earth origin energy. Finally, a qualitative change occurred. The heavenly tribulation and heaven and earth origin energy were the key to Qinglian's breakthrough to rank 9. Under the repeated baptism and tempering of the heavenly tribulation, Qinglian's true body's flesh, blood, tendons and bones became flawless and condensed without any impurities. Her essence spirit was even more pure and resplendent. Under such circumstances, the fusion of heaven and earth origin energy caused Qinglian's true body to transform and break through to rank 9. Creation Qinglian seized the creation of heaven and earth. Towards the end of its growth, every time it transformed, it would give birth to many mysteries. Back then, the grade 7 creation Qinglian allowed Su Zimo to release dermic arts continuously. The grade 8 creation Qinglian gave birth to many mystical abilities. As for the grade 9 creation Qinglian, she gave birth to an utmost treasure of heaven and earth, the ordinary yellow sand that everyone was looking at. After creation Qinglian grew to rank 9, Su Zimo's essence spirit of Qinglian also obtained an incomplete memory. Many ancient races had their own inherited memories. Creation Qinglian was unique in heaven and earth, and it was only normal for her to have inheritance memories. The inheritance memories recorded the origin of the yellow sand. The yellow sand was no ordinary item. It was known as the 9 heavens breath soil, and was the ancestral source of earth. It was extremely mysterious and had unparalleled defense, born from chaos. A portion of the breath soil evolved into the 9 heavens, while a portion of it gave birth to Qinglian. Although there was only a small portion of the 9 heavens breath soil, It could expand and spread rapidly with endless changes. It could change size at will, and was tough, dense, and invulnerable. Of course, that portion of inheritance memories was not complete. Su Zimo had to test out the miraculous effects of the Nine Heavens breath soil himself. Now that Qinglian's true body had grown to grade 9, that utmost treasure was created and materialized immediately, shrouding the surroundings of the creation lotus platform and protecting Su Zimo's essence spirit within. Although the thunder tide outside was surging violently, the impact was completely blocked outside by the Nine Heaven life soil. In the middle of the Nine Heavens breath soil, the initially bare creation lotus platform began to exude vitality. There were 81 lotus holes in the middle of the lotus platform. Those lotus holes spewed out streams of green light that dyed the heavens and repelled the surrounding thunder tide in a bedazzling manner. A moment later, the thunder tide gradually retreated. The thunderclouds in the skies gradually dispersed as well. Light could be seen above East Ocean once more. The dull and shuddering pressure dissipated as well, and the azure skies reappeared above the firmaments. When they saw that, the living beings of the myriad races heaved a sigh of relief. It was over. Wu Huang's tribulation attracted 49 heavenly tribulations, a total of 36 thunderbolts. This scene would definitely be recorded in history. Under countless gazes, Qinglian grew out of the Nine Heavens breath soil once more. Her lotus leaves were sparkling and gigantic lotus petals bloomed one after another, flickering with light. Finally, Qinglian vanished and Su Zimo's figure appeared. Dressed in green robes, his black hair draped over his shoulders, and he had delicate features. His aura had already become unfathomable. Initially, the flesh and blood of the rank 8 Qinglian's true body could not compare to the Dragon Phoenix true body. Among the 3 true bodies, the Qinglian's true body had the weakest combat strength. But now that the Qinglian's true body had transformed to a rank 9, her combat strength was definitely not weaker than the Dragon Phoenix true body. Of course, the greatest gain of the Qinglian's true body's growth to rank 9 was the Nine Heavens breath soil. On the other side, the Dragon Phoenix true body barely managed to hold on with the help of the bronze square tripod. His body was severely injured, and his essence chi was damaged. He was still trying his best to recover from his injuries. Wu Dao's true body's tribulation was the calmest and smoothest. Even the final 49 heavenly tribulations did not pose much of a threat to Wu Dao's true body. Right then, 3 milky white beams of light descended from the firmaments and shrouded Su Zimo's 3 true bodies with a strange power. Everyone was astonished as they watched the scene unfold before them. The milky white beams of light emitted powerful life force that surged into the body of the Dragon Phoenix true body. The injuries of the Dragon Phoenix true body healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. In less than 10 breaths, the Dragon Phoenix true body had already recovered. At the same time, the 3 milky white beams of light were filled with a powerful suction force that wanted to soar into the air with the 3 true bodies and soar away. The 3 beams of light seemed to be a passageway that connected the upper and lower worlds. The Dragon Phoenix true body and Qinglian's true body did not resist the power. They relaxed their bodies and followed the suction force. Under the gazes of the living beings of the myriad races, they slowly rose into the air and flew towards the unknown upper world. Chapter 1781. The Dragon Phoenix true body and Qinglian true body turned into 2 spots of light and disappeared into the ends of the firmaments before long. The 2 milky white beams of light dissipated as well. It was only when the experts of Tianhuang mainland retracted their gazes that they noticed something amiss. The 3rd milky white beam of light was still connected to heaven and earth, shrouding Wu Dao's true body. Wu Dao's true body did not leave, and was still standing in midair, gazing into the skies. What's Wu Huang's 3rd true body doing? I'm not sure. He seems to be resisting the guidance of the upper world. Many experts were shocked and discussed fervently. The milky white beam of light burned brighter, and a powerful suction force acted on Wu Dao's true body, wanting to take him away from Tianhuang mainland. However, Wu Dao's true body remained motionless. Both sides were wrestling and Wu Dao's true body channeled his blood chi slowly. In the end, it even conjured a bloodline phenomenon. a gigantic furnace that burned furiously in midair, resisting the guidance force. Before the tribulation transcendence, Su Zimo had already made his decision. The Dragon Phoenix true body and Qinglian true body transcended the tribulations at the same time and ascended to the upper world. As for Wu Dao's true body, he chose to stay behind in Tianhuang mainland. Firstly, it was unknown what realm he would ascend to, what living beings he would encounter, and what dangers he would encounter upon ascending to the upper world. If he left Wu Dao's true body in Tianhuang mainland, he would not be considered dead, even if the Dragon Phoenix true body and Qinglian true body encountered any mishaps. One day, Wu Dao's true body would still be able to ascend and return to the upper world. Secondly, Su Zimo had many old friends in Tianhuang mainland. For example, Xiaoning had only just entered the Mahayana realm. If Xiaoning wanted to transcend the tribulation, she would have to cultivate for a long time. Su Zimo was the most worried about Xiaoning. Of course, apart from Xiaoning, there was also Monkey, Night Spirit and other close friends such as Little Fatty, Ji Qingtian, Leng Ro and Lin Xuanji. There was also Nian Qi and Momo, his two disciples. With so many old friends in Tianhuang mainland, Su Zimo could not be at ease if he were to leave just like that. Thirdly, Su Zimo wanted to sever some karma. What is Wu Huang thinking? Why is he resisting the guidance of the upper realm? A wave of voices erupted from the crowd. I guess he's worried about some old friends on Heaven Wasteland, someone guessed. Another person said, but if that's the case, why go through the tribulation? Now that he's gone through the 49 heavenly tribulations, he's chosen to go against the guidance of the upper realm. This isn't just defying the heavens, it's challenging the rules of the heavenly Tao. That's right. This is a dangerous move, and it is very likely that it will attract the punishment of the heavens. Transcending the tribulation was a necessary step. Only by transcending the tribulation could Wu Dao's true body continue to cultivate. Back then, when the powerhouses from the upper realm descended, they were all killed by Daiyu, leaving behind many treasures and cultivation resources. However, without undergoing the tribulation, it was impossible to refine and absorb the treasures. Wu Dao's true body wanted to continue cultivating in the lower realm. Zimo, why are you doing this? Among the crowd, a woman in pale yellow robes looked at the figure above the East Ocean and murmured worriedly. Sister, could he have stayed for you? Beside her, a girl in pink with a veil asked softly. The yellow-robed woman frowned and pursed her red lips. Her heart was completely focused on the person above the East Ocean, and she did not hear what the girl beside her said. Within the milky white beam, the guidance power was still increasing. Wu Dao's true body did not relax in the slightest bit. After the bloodline phenomenon, his 4 fate wheels were expanded as well, forming 4 purple halos behind him that almost destroyed the milky white beam of light. The clash between the two powers was silent. However, everyone from Heaven Wasteland was nervous, and their palms were sweating. This was because the space above the East Sea was crazily twisting, shattering, and collapsing under the confrontation of these two forces. Old man, what will happen if Brother Su continues resisting? Lin Xuanji could not help but ask. The old storyteller said slowly with a grim expression. Nobody knows what will happen. After all, something like this has never happened before. Pausing for a moment, the old storyteller sighed softly. Wu Huang is going against the will of the heavens and challenging the rules of the heavenly Tao. Although the old storyteller did not continue, Lin Xuanji's heart sank. He could tell that the old storyteller was implying that Su Zimo's actions would bring about some trouble. Before long, the milky white beam of light that pierced through the heavens and earth dissipated gradually. Wu Dao's true body appeared once more and stood above the East Ocean. Although his face was slightly pale, his gaze was still calm. This resistance took a huge toll on Wu Dao's true body as well. He had just transcended the 49 heavenly tribulations and was almost exhausted after resisting the guidance power of the upper realm. Is it over? The guidance failed and they gave up, allowing Wu Huang to stay in the lower realm? The living beings of the 10,000 races had different expressions. This scene seemed to be completely different from what they had imagined. All of a sudden, a crack appeared in the firmaments. An extremely terrifying might emanated from the crack with a biting, killing intent that seemed like it wanted to destroy everything. Snap! There was a deafening bang. A purple bolt of lightning descended from the skies and descended onto Wu Dao's true body instantly. Wherever the purple lightning passed, the world was sliced into two. The living beings of the 10,000 races were shocked. The emperors were shocked. Nobody could describe the power of that purple lightning. The might of that purple lightning was not as shocking as the 49 heavenly tribulations. However, the combined power of the 49 heavenly tribulations was far inferior to the killing power of that purple lightning. That purple lightning seemed like a punishment from the heavens that wanted to destroy all living beings that dared to challenge the will of the heavens and the rules of the heavenly Tao. It was way too fast. The moment the purple light flashed, the purple lightning had already landed on Wu Dao's true body. Boom! Streaks of blood burst forth from the resplendent purple light. Right in front of everyone, Wu Dao's true body was destroyed in body and spirit by the purple lightning without a corpse left. All the living beings that saw that opened their mouths instinctively and widened their eyes. The emperors even forgot to breathe and stood rooted to the ground. All the emperors had witnessed the strength of Wu Dao's true body before. Even the 49 heavenly tribulations could not destroy Wu Dao's true body. However, that purple lightning destroyed it with ease and destroyed his soul. A moment later, the crack in the firmaments closed slowly. It was as though the purple lightning just now was just an illusion of the living beings of the 10,000 races. However, the supreme figure above the East Ocean that looked down on the world was completely destroyed by that purple lightning and became a thing of the past. Sigh. Many experts shook their heads and sighed. Wu Huang has clearly succeeded in transcending the tribulation, but he still wants to provoke the heavens. This is truly a little. He can't blame others for his ending. No matter what, Wu Huang's two true bodies succeeded in transcending the tribulation and have already ascended to the upper realm. At least his two true bodies were preserved. It can be considered a blessing in disguise. The living beings of the 10,000 races discussed animatedly and lingered around the East Ocean for a long time. Some experts even wanted to search for the storage bag of Wu Dao's true body, but found nothing. Under that kind of power, the storage pouch would have probably been reduced to ashes. Many experts thought so. In fact, the moment the purple lightning descended on Wu Dao's true body, under the cover of the blazing purple light, no one noticed that a wisp of silver light fell into the East Ocean and disappeared. Chapter 1782. As Su Zimo's two true bodies ascended, and Wu Dao's true body was destroyed in body and spirit by the purple heavenly punishment, the living beings of the 10,000 races lingered around the East Ocean for a long time before dispersing. This time round, Wu Huang's tribulation transcendence brought about a huge impact on the living beings of the 10,000 races. Some living beings even chose to sit by the East Ocean and comprehend the Tao. Some experts completely gave up on the thought of transcending the tribulation and ascending. However, some people's Tao hearts were even more resolute. Nobody noticed that a silver light floated and fell into the depths of the East Ocean. Su Zimo's tribulation transcendence was enveloped by the tribulation clouds, and no living being dared to linger in the East Ocean region. Naturally, no living being in the deep sea discovered the existence of the silver light. It was a silver mask. The silver mask came from the upper world and landed on Tianhuang mainland at the same time as the bronze square tripod. Furthermore, there was a drop of blood with sentience in the mask. It caused the mask to turn blood red. However, the drop of blood was imprisoned by Wu Dao's true body's martial soul fire and red lotus karmic fire, causing the mask to return to its original appearance. Since Wu Dao's true body decided to defy the will of the heavenly Tao, he had already predicted that a heavenly punishment would descend. Although his combat strength was invincible in the lower realm, this heavenly punishment could definitely destroy him easily. Therefore, the silver mask was Wu Dao's true body's final trump card. When the heavenly punishment descended, Wu Dao's true body could already sense that he could not withstand the impact of the heavenly punishment. Therefore, Wu Dao's true body made a prompt decision and hid a drop of essence blood in the silver mask. True enough, his body was struck by the heavenly punishment until nothing was left. However, the silver mask was safe and sound against the heavenly punishment and fell into the deep sea. At the bottom of the East Ocean, a drop of essence blood suddenly flew out from the silver mask. A powerful divine power spread, and in the blink of an eye, Wu Dao's true body condensed once more with a terrifying aura. Rebirth from a drop of blood. Normally speaking, the rules of the heavenly Dao did not allow the power of the upper realm to appear in the lower realm. Therefore, after the tribulation, the cultivator would be allowed to ascend to the upper realm. Furthermore, it was difficult for the powerhouses from the upper realm to descend. Even if they did, they would be severely punished. However, Wu Dao's actions were tantamount to concealing the secrets of heaven and earth, deceiving the heavens and earth. His tribulation allowed the vital qi of heaven and earth to cleanse his flesh, blood, and primordial spirit. While he obtained the power of the upper realm, he remained in the lower realm. The existence of Wu Dao's true body was originally an anomaly, jumping out of the 3 realms and out of the 5 elements. However, as long as Wu Dao's original body cultivated, it would leave a mark in the lower realm and enter the cycle of reincarnation. Therefore, Wu Dao's tribulation would also be sensed by the heavenly Dao, and a heavenly tribulation would descend. And this time, Wu Dao's true body used heavenly punishment to erase his traces once again and jump out of samsara. Wu Dao's main body looked calm. He casually picked up the silver mask and gently swiped his palm in front of him. A deep crack appeared in the deep sea, but the seawater was unable to flow in. Wu Dao's true body flashed and disappeared into the depths of the eastern sea. The crack closed and before long, peace returned to the bottom of the eastern sea. North region Pingyang town. Suddenly, a crack appeared in the courtyard of Su Zimo's residence. Wu Dao's true body appeared and walked out slowly. Young master. Not far away, an obedient and tender boy stepped forward and called out softly with a joyful expression. The boy was none other than Tao Yao. Momo carried a storage bag and handed it to Wu Dao's true body, saying happily, "Here, young master." Wu Dao's true body only informed a single person of his decision, Momo. Before Wu Dao's true body transcended the tribulation, he had made some arrangements. He imparted the earth-slaying sword art to Qinglian's true body and left behind the essence condensation pills, essence spirit stones, and the imprisoned drop of blood in the storage bags of the fallen experts of the upper realm. In order to prevent any accidents, Wu Dao's true body handed the storage bag to Momo for safekeeping. Indeed, the heavenly punishment descended and destroyed almost everything. Wu Dao's true body did not even have a corpse left. If he carried a storage bag with him, he would have been reduced to ashes a long time ago. Wu Dao's true body received the storage bag, and with his spirit consciousness, he captured the imprisoned drop of blood. At that moment, the prison formed by the martial spirit fire and red lotus karmic fire was still unable to harm the core of the drop of blood, and could only imprison it within. "Who are you?" Wu Dao's true body asked. "What's the origin of that silver mask and bronze square tripod?" The drop of blood was motionless in the purgatory and did not respond. "Answer whatever I ask so that you won't suffer." Wu Dao's true body said indifferently. "Humph." When the drop of blood heard the threat of Wu Dao's true body, it finally could not hold it in and sneered. "You're not a threat to me with your strength. I'm the great Lord Heavenly Wolf. If you let me go right now, I can impart to you some cultivation techniques and secret skills that will be enough for you to use for the rest of your life. If you insist on being stubborn, when my master is born, he'll definitely skin you alive and grind your bones to dust." Heavenly Wolf. Wu Dao's true body raised his brow slightly and asked, "Who's your master?" "My master is the great." As though it realized something, the heavenly wolf shut up hurriedly. Wu Dao's true body smiled indifferently. "It's fine if you don't say. I'll let you try out the method that I just comprehended." As he said that, Wu Dao's true body channeled his essence spirit and pinched his fingertips, igniting a blue flame. This cluster of flames was filled with a heart-palpitating aura that seemed familiar. It was not a divine power. The aura was extremely similar to the heavenly tribulation that just now had descended. What is that? The heavenly wolf dodged and hollered. Wu Dao's true body said, "This is a power that I comprehended when I was transcending the tribulation. I call it the tribulation fire." Tribulations were an extremely special power. Nobody knew how they were created. Tribulations seem to have existed since ancient times, and were born with heaven and earth. They came in all sorts of forms and were everywhere. At the Mahayana realm, there would be a divine power tribulation. If one wanted to ascend, there would be a heavenly tribulation. At the upper world, there might be other tribulations. The 49 heavenly tribulations were not much of a threat to Wu Dao's true body. That was the reason why he could comprehend the source of the power of the heavenly tribulation, while transcending it, and condense it in the form of flames. The heavenly tribulation descended in the form of lightning. However, Wu Dao's true body controlled the heavenly tribulation in the form of flames. In other words, if Wu Dao's true body wanted to, he could even replace the heavenly Dao and send down the heavenly tribulation on Tianhuang mainland. The tribulation fire that Wu Dao's true body condensed was comparable to the power of the 49 heavenly tribulations. The fourth heavenly tribulation of the 49 heavenly tribulations was sky blue in color. Furthermore, as the cultivation of Wu Dao's true body advanced, the power of the tribulation fire would continue to rise. Wu Dao's true body tapped gently with his fingertip and fused the sky blue tribulation fire into his flame purgatory in midair. Apart from the martial spirit fire and red lotus karmic fire, there was now another tribulation fire in the purgatory. Swoosh! The flames burned brightly. Ah! 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 The heavenly wolf shrieked in agony. Book Abode Reading Website. Chapter 1783. The 3 balls of flames burned and refined the drop of blood at the same time. The heavenly wolf howled and could not hold on any longer. If it was just the power of the lower realm, no matter how many divine powers Wu Dao's true body comprehended or fused, it would be difficult to threaten the heavenly wolf. That was why the heavenly wolf was fearless. But now, Wu Dao's true body was transcending the tribulation and fusing with heaven and earth essence qi to obtain the power of the upper realm. At the same time, he deceived the world and used the heavenly punishment to erase his traces in the lower realm. This ball of tribulation fire could already threaten the heavenly wolf. As time passed, Wu Dao's true body would fuse the heaven and earth essence qi with the martial soul fire and red lotus karmic fire. The power of these 2 balls of flames would also increase greatly. At that time, he would really be burned to ashes. Wu Dao's true body had a calm expression and a deep gaze as he said faintly, "You joined forces with the blood demon and caused so many calamities in Tianhuang mainland. My patience with you is limited. That has nothing to do with me at all." The heavenly wolf shrieked. "I only imparted some cultivation techniques to him and guided his cultivation. I never participated in his actions." Wu Dao's true body did not speak, but the flames in the purgatory burned brighter and brighter. Under the boundless starry sky, 2 milky white beams of light pierced through heaven and earth. 2 figures were rapidly flying towards the upper realm. It was a strange feeling. Su Zimo felt as though he had passed through layers of barriers and was getting closer and closer to the vast starry sky above his head as he flew towards another world. At that moment, the 2 true bodies showed no signs of separating and were not far away. On the other side, the injuries of the dragon phoenix true body had already healed under the healing of the milky white beam of light. At that moment, it was holding the bronze square tripod and observing it carefully. After Su Zimo obtained the bronze square tripod, although he had always tried to refine it into his destiny dermic weapon, there was no reaction from it. Su Zimo could not use the bronze square tripod to release any divine powers or dermic arts. Therefore he rarely used it. Su Zimo had also tried to repair the bronze square tripod. Although the bronze square cauldron was covered in cracks and almost shattered beyond recognition, it was still incomparably hard and impervious to fire and water. There was no way to repair it. Now that it had undergone the baptism of the 49 heavenly tribulations, the green bronze square cauldron was also infused with a lot of yuan qi of heaven and earth. Finally, the cauldron showed some reaction. A glimmer of light shone through the cracks of the cauldron. The dragon phoenix true body stared fixedly at the bronze square cauldron and observed it carefully. Gradually, he discovered a trace of abnormality. There seemed to be 4 patterns engraved on the 4 outer walls of the bronze square cauldron. However, the cauldron was so badly damaged that Su Zimo couldn't tell what kind of patterns were carved on the cauldron walls. Qinglian's true body, who was not far away from the dragon phoenix's true body, was looking down with a hint of shock in her eyes. He was getting further and further away from Tianhuang mainland. Tianhuang mainland shrank in his vision and gradually turned into a spot of light. At that moment, Su Zimo looked down and saw that in the vast universe below, there were hundreds of millions of spots of light like the sands of the Ganges River. They were innumerable. These spots of light must be the hundreds of millions of minor kiliocosms. Su Zimo thought to himself. It was these endless minor kiliocosms that formed the entire lower realm. Tianhuang mainland was only a grain of sand in the vast Ganges River. It was insignificant and nothing compared to the entire lower realm. It was only at this moment that Su Zimo truly understood what the human emperor had said to him. In the upper realm, there were countless paragons and monster incarnates. Most of the emperors of the lower realm, who ascended to the upper realm, were reduced to nothingness. There's a saying in the Buddhist scriptures that a single grain of sand is a world. Could these hundreds of millions of minor kiliocosms really be a handful of sand scattered by some important figure? Su Zimo's thoughts ran wild. Right then, a gigantic shadow swept past him. Su Zimo was shocked and turned over. Through the milky white beam of light, Su Zimo could clearly see that the gigantic shadow was an incomparably massive star. The surface of the star was uneven with undulating mountains and ravines. Strong winds howled and sand flew everywhere. There was no sign of life at all. However, the star still exuded an extremely vast power that seemed like it could devour all living beings. In front of the star, Su Zimo was like a speck of dust. This was a true star. In Tianhuang mainland, all living beings looked up at the starry skies. Right now, Su Zimo was truly beside a star. Su Zimo's vision continued to expand. In the vast void, there were countless celestial bodies floating. Some of them were round while others resembled floating continents. He could even sense the fluctuations of life on some of the celestial bodies. There were even many strange living beings that ran out from some of the continents and looked at Su Zimo, who was ascending curiously. The entire world and universe were incomparably vast. There were countless living beings and races of all shapes and forms. All of these living beings and races were playing out different legends in their respective worlds. Su Zimo was only one of them. Right then, the milky white beam of light above the dragon phoenix true body suddenly shifted and sped in a certain direction. As for Qinglian's true body, it seemed like it was pulled by an inexplicable gravitational force and was ascending in another direction. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Daiyu had once said that the dragon phoenix true body had the highest chance of ascending to one of the 3 worlds, the Dragon World, Wutong World or Great Wilderness. There was a chance that Qinglian's true body could ascend to the heavenly realm. The current scene should be a sign that the 2 true bodies were ascending to 2 different worlds. Su Zimo had a calm expression. He could only allow the power to guide him through this process, and could not do anything. He could not choose which world to ascend to. All of a sudden, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat, as though something terrifying was about to descend upon him. Su Zimo's expression changed. He had never felt such a terrifying sense of trepidation ever since he started cultivating. No matter how strong his opponents were back then, he did not have such a huge reaction against the assassination of a half-martial ancestor at the Void Reversion Realm. All of a sudden, an unimaginably enormous pressure suddenly descended upon them. Cracks appeared on the milky white beam of light that enveloped the 2 true bodies against the might, and let out a shuddering sound. Boom! Immediately after, a loud bang sounded above Su Zimo's head. He subconsciously raised his head and looked up. He saw a huge palm coming toward his 2 true bodies. Su Zimo's pupils constricted violently. The terror of that palm had already exceeded his imagination. Just now, the stars that floated around him were as insignificant as gravel against that palm. Bang! 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 Before the palm truly descended, the stars and celestial bodies in the surrounding void shattered one after another and turned into ashes. The living beings within the stars and celestial bodies could not resist at all and were killed in the blink of an eye. Chapter 1784. A single palm destroyed many celestial bodies as though they were twigs. This power was completely beyond Su Zimo's understanding. The cruelty behind this caused Su Zimo's heart to turn cold. The lives of the living beings on the celestial bodies were worthless in the eyes of the owner of the palm, and they were all killed without hesitation. It was clear that the palm was targeting him. Su Zimo truly could not imagine how he would attract such a terrifying enemy before ascending to the upper world. More than that, he did not expect to encounter such a calamity right before he ascended. In other words, this person had already predicted his ascension and came to kill him in advance. This person knew very well that if Su Zimo were to ascend to another realm, he might not be able to kill Su Zimo. Su Zimo's eyes widened. He could not move at all against the aura of the gigantic palm. Before the terrifying palm truly descended, the might of its aura alone was enough to restrain Su Zimo completely. A sense of helplessness surged through Su Zimo's heart. This was an absolute suppression in terms of strength. Even when he faced the descent of the experts of the upper world back then, he did not feel this way. Fufufu. Suddenly, a cold laughter sounded from the cosmos. "And we meet again." The voice sounded once more. Su Zimo was shocked. This voice was rather familiar to him. It's that person. A figure flashed through Su Zimo's mind, and his heart sank. Back then, the experts of the upper world descended on Tianhuang mainland one after another. In the end, a white-robed man who called himself this king appeared. In fact, he could even locate Qinglian's true body on Tianhuang mainland with a single thought, and was extremely strong. Furthermore, he found out from Daiyu that the one who descended on Tianhuang mainland was only a clone of the white-robed man. Daiyu had also told Su Zimo before that this person had a high status in the heavenly realm and could be conferred the title of king. Unfortunately, that person encountered Daiyu and his clone was destroyed. Furthermore, Daiyu even stole his Dao fruit. Now the Dao fruit was in the hands of Wu Dao's true body. Daiyu had warned Su Zimo to be careful of this person if he ascended to the heaven realm. However, Su Zimo did not expect that before he could ascend to the upper realm, this person had already lost his patience and attacked him in advance. "I don't care what kind of relationship you have with that Shui Dai. She destroyed one of my avatars, and I will settle this debt with you." The white-shirt man's voice could be heard once again. His tone was cold and filled with resentment. Su Zimo was clearly aware that the white-robed man had probably not only come for revenge, but also for Qinglian's true body. As expected, the man in white said coldly, "I originally planned to raise your Dragon Phoenix avatar as an immortal pet. However, since my avatar has been destroyed, your avatar will have to be buried with me. Don't worry, I won't kill your true body of Qinglian right away. I'm going to refine this true body of yours into an immortal pill for cultivation." As soon as he said that, the gigantic palm slowly closed. A terrifying pressure instantly descended on the Dragon Phoenix true body. Crack! Crack! The sound of bones cracking could be heard from the body of the Dragon Phoenix true body. Pain that was everywhere, a pain that penetrated deep into the soul. The Dragon Phoenix true body could not move at all. Under this power, the bones in its body shattered bit by bit, and its life force was extinguished. During this process, although the Dragon Phoenix essence spirit could not move, it was in an incomparable situation and felt the intense pain coming from all parts of its body. Under this immense pressure, the Dragon Phoenix true body had already begun to deform and distort. With this white-shirt man's methods, he could probably crush the Dragon Phoenix true body to death with a single finger. And now, the white-shirt man was slowly destroying the Dragon Phoenix true body to torture Su Zimo. He wanted to let Su Zimo personally experience this pain and despair. The scales of the Dragon Phoenix true body had already turned into powder. In just a short dozen breaths, the bones of the Dragon Phoenix true body were completely crushed by this terrifying power. For the Dragon Phoenix true body, These dozen breaths felt as though hundreds of years had passed. The dragon phoenix true body wanted to shout and vent, but it could not do so. It could only endure the pain silently. Before long, the destructive pressure seeped into the organs of the dragon phoenix true body. Even the scales, flesh and bones could not withstand this power. In the blink of an eye, the organs of the dragon phoenix true body were shattered into pieces, and there was no life force left. The dragon phoenix true body was stained with blood, and was no longer in shape. It was almost squeezed into a blood-colored ball of flesh by this powerful force. Fufufu, the white shirt man's laughter continued. He seemed to be very satisfied with his masterpiece. It's a pity for the dragon phoenix bloodline. Suddenly, another voice sounded in the cosmos. It's just a beast that ascended from the lower world. There's nothing to pity. This humanoid creation, Qinglian, is the true treasure. The white shirt man replied. Although Su Zimo's vision was blocked by the gigantic hand above his head, it was clear that there was another person in the cosmos apart from the white shirt man. Suddenly, the voice exclaimed softly and said, "This cauldron can actually resist your power, and hasn't been completely destroyed yet. What kind of lousy cauldron is this? It's broken into such a state?" The white shirt man also said. He seemed to be a little confused. At this moment, in the cosmos, another powerful force suddenly burst out and collided with the white shirt man's palm. Boom! The two forces collided and exploded with a loud bang. The surrounding cosmos trembled slightly. King Yunyu, as an immortal king, how can you be so pathetic? How dare you interfere with the ascension of a living being from the lower world? Then, a woman's voice came from the cosmos. Humph! The white shirt man snorted. Where did this crazy woman come from? You have no right to comment on how I do things. You can't stop me. Although that was the case, this woman's interference and confrontation with King Yunyu made Su Zimo feel lighter. Although the suffocating aura of death still surrounded him, he was temporarily freed from the state of confinement and regained his mobility. Without hesitation, the dragon phoenix primordial spirit broke away from the broken dragon phoenix real body and hid in the bronze square cauldron. Then it sped toward Qinglian real body. The physical body of the dragon phoenix real body was already dead. It was completely cut off from the dragon phoenix primordial spirit. There was no need to heal it. Rebirth from a drop of blood. The dragon phoenix primordial spirit hid in the bronze square cauldron. He quickly activated his divine power and tried to reform his physical body. However, as soon as he unleashed the power of his divine ability, it immediately dissipated. There was no flesh around the dragon phoenix primordial spirit. Noticing this, Su Zimo's expression turned cold. His heart gradually sank to the bottom. Chapter 1785. Humph! As though he could sense Su Zimo's intentions, the Cloud Underworld King could not help but scoff coldly. You're truly a frog at the bottom of a well. How ignorant. You want to release that blood revival technique of yours after leaving the lower realm? If I say that I want to destroy a clone of yours, that clone of yours will definitely be crippled, and no one will be able to save it. In that short period of time, the dilapidated dragon phoenix true body, that was drained of life force, had already fallen downwards. Su Zimo had not expected that he would encounter such a calamity, even before he ascended to the upper realm. He had not expected that blood revival would be useless in the boundless cosmos after leaving the lower realm. Su Zimo's expression was grim, and his gaze was cold. At that moment, the dragon phoenix essence spirit had just controlled the bronze square tripod to his side. The bronze square tripod was his only hope of survival, although that hope was extremely slim in the cosmos with a powerful enemy before him. Su Zimo looked at the dragon phoenix true body that was gradually disappearing, and his mind spun furiously, thinking of a countermeasure. The dragon phoenix true body that he had cultivated for so many years was transformed from his initial mortal body. Was he going to give up just like that? However, what else could he do if he did not give up? The life force of the dragon phoenix true body had already been destroyed by the Cloud Underworld King, and there was no chance for it to be revived. If he wanted to be reborn, the dragon phoenix essence spirit would have to return to the lower realm and Tianhuang mainland. However, He had already transcended the tribulation and ascended to the lower realm. If he were to return now, he would be obstructed by the laws of the lower realm. Butterfly Moon mended the heavens, and the laws were complete. There was no way the Dragon Phoenix essence spirit could return to Tianhuang mainland. Furthermore, the prerequisite for blood revival was a drop of bloodline with life force. However, the bloodline and life force of the Dragon Phoenix true body had already been destroyed by the Cloud Underworld King. Even if the Dragon Phoenix essence spirit returned to the lower realm, it would be useless. In a flash, Su Zimo's eyes flashed coldly, and he made a decision. Abandon the Dragon Phoenix true body. Abandoning it did not mean that the Dragon Phoenix true body would disappear. The dilapidated Dragon Phoenix true body that had no life force would follow its original path and fall back to Tianhuang mainland under the shattered milky white beam of light. The laws of the lower realm restricted living beings and everything that possessed life. For example, the lotus platform of creation, the heaven-slaying sword art, the earth-slaying sword art, and the bronze square cauldron would not be restricted by the laws of the lower realm. As for the Dragon Phoenix true body, its life force was extinguished by the Nether Cloud King, and it landed on Tianhuang mainland. Naturally, it would not be stopped. However, the martial Dao true body was still guarding Tianhuang mainland. Su Zimo's decision was the separation of spirit and body. Since there was no way to save the Dragon Phoenix true body, he would allow it to return to Tianhuang mainland and hand it over to the martial Dao true body. With the help of the martial Dao cauldron, he would refine it completely and fuse it into his body. The Dragon Phoenix true body would be handed to Wu Dao true body. As for the Dragon Phoenix essence spirit, it would be handed to Qinglian true body. The two essence spirits were originally cultivated by Su Zimo and were originally one. If they could fuse together again, it would be of great significance to Su Zimo. The fusion of the two essence spirits would increase Su Zimo's strength significantly as well. The most direct thing was definitely the increase in the power of his essence spirit. More importantly, the many divine powers and secret skills comprehended by the Dragon Phoenix essence spirit would be fused into Su Zimo's body and would not be lost. That was way too important for Su Zimo. The Dragon Phoenix true body knew many powerful divine powers and secret skills. If it was lost just like that, it would be an irreparable loss for Su Zimo. However, if the essence spirits could fuse, that would not happen. In other words, if Su Zimo's idea was successful, although the Dragon Phoenix true body would be destroyed, it would be fused into the bodies of Wu Dao true body and Qinglian true body, and exist in this world in a different way. Of course, the prerequisite for that was that Su Zimo could escape this calamity. Boom, boom, boom. In the cosmos, although the woman who appeared later did not appear, a violent shockwave was released from her battle with the King of Underworld Clouds. Humph! The King of Underworld Clouds scoffed coldly. You merely formed a small grotto heaven, and you want to interfere in my affairs? You must have a death wish. Before he finished his sentence, the King of Underworld Clouds attacked once more. Boom! The cosmos trembled. In the depths of the cosmos, a dull grunt could be heard from the woman. During this process, Su Zimo had already hidden in the bronze square tripod together with the Dragon Phoenix essence spirit. He wanted to control the bronze square tripod to escape this place. However, the shockwaves from the battle outside struck the bronze square tripod continuously. In the face of such horrifying power, Su Zimo could not fight back at all. He could only hide in the bronze square tripod and collide with the chaotic energy everywhere. He could not control himself as he scurried around in the cosmos. Although Su Zimo could not see the situation outside, it was clear that the woman was no match for the King of Underworld Clouds. More importantly, he was not the only one on the King of Underworld Clouds' side. If the others were to join forces with the King of Underworld Clouds, the woman would definitely be defeated. I wonder who that woman is. Let's hope that nothing happens to her. Su Zimo thought to himself. His life and death were no longer up to him. He could only resign himself to fate. Right now, Su Zimo only hoped that he would not implicate the woman because of him. The aura outside was getting more violent. Su Zimo scattered the living soil of the 9 heavens and sealed the mouth of the tripod with a lump of yellow sand. He curled up his body and hid in the tripod. Su Zimo took a deep breath. With a thought, the dragon phoenix essence spirit entered the consciousness of Qinglian's real body. One of the essence spirits had shoulder-length scarlet hair and was filled with demonic qi. The other essence spirit had black hair and was elegant and otherworldly. Su Zimo grit his teeth gently and controlled the 2 essence spirits to collide. The 2 figures of light fused and released a violent spirit consciousness fluctuation. Ugh! As though he was struck by lightning, Su Zimo shuddered and grunted. His vision darkened and he nearly fainted. Initially, he thought that since the 2 essence spirits came from the same source, they should not encounter much of a hindrance in their fusion. However, in reality, the forceful fusion of the 2 essence spirits resulted in an intense clash. Neither of them gave in, and they were almost destroyed on the spot. Actually, if the 2 essence spirits were fused when they were born, they would not encounter much danger. But now the 2 essence spirits were fused into one. One of them was a dragon phoenix that had cultivated to become a taboo immortal with a torrential demonic qi. As for the other, it was an utmost treasure of the universe that shone with a resplendent glow. Although the 2 essence spirits came from the same source, they were completely different. A fusion as such was courting death. Even the king of Cloud Underworld and the others who were fighting in the cosmos right now would not dare to do this, let alone Su Zimo, who had just ascended. In reality, if not for the fact that his dragon phoenix true body was destroyed and Su Zimo was forced into such a desperate situation, he would not have taken the risk to fuse the 2 essence spirits. But now, the arrow was already knocked, and he had no other choice. Even if he stopped, the 2 essence spirits had already suffered immense damage and were irreversible. He could only rely on his strong willpower to stay awake and fuse forcefully. Su Zimo did not realize that his current actions were already half a step into the gates of hell. If he did not stop, the 2 essence spirits would not fuse. Instead, they would perish together and their souls would dissipate. Chapter 1786. The battle outside the bronze square tripod intensified. It was clear that the mysterious woman who appeared at the back was no match for the Nethercloud King. The surrounding cosmos trembled from the collision of the 2 experts, as though it could not withstand the impact of the power. If the mysterious woman was defeated, Su Zimo would definitely die as well. Right now, Su Zimo was facing immense danger within the bronze square tripod as well. The Dragon Phoenix Essence Spirit and Qinglian Essence Spirit did not give way to each other, and were mixed together. Although the 2 Essence Spirits originated from the same source, they had already undergone a complete metamorphosis after cultivating to this point of time. Instantly, an intense conflict erupted as they forcefully fused. Su Zimo curled his body and hugged his head with both hands, roaring deeply within the bronze square tripod. A sharp pain shot through his mind that penetrated deep into his bones. He felt as though his head was about to explode. Su Zimo's features were contorted and green veins popped on his neck. His aura fluctuated between strong and weak, and he could die at any moment. During this process, his consciousness had already turned blurry. If not for his strong willpower and unshakable Dao heart, he would have fainted long ago against the impact of this pain. At that moment, the 2 essence spirits had already fused. The scarlet and green lights did not give way to each other and intertwined. Even if Su Zimo wanted to separate the 2 essence spirits, he could not do it. As time passed by, the conflict between the 2 essence spirits intensified. Dong! 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 The intense pain in his mind had Su Zimo on the brink of a breakdown. Clenching his fists tightly, he smashed them against the inner walls of the bronze square tripod repeatedly with dull thuds. Su Zimo released all his strength and hammered against the walls of the tripod maniacally. In fact, he did not even realize that his fists were bleeding. The pain from his physical body was not even 1,000th of the pain from the fusion of the essence spirits in his mind. Su Zimo let out a series of deep roars from the depths of his throat. His consciousness was blurry as his palms scratched around wildly. His fingernails snapped against the cracks on the walls of the tripod. In the blink of an eye, All 10 of his fingers were mangled. The 10 fingers were connected to the heart. This kind of pain finally eased his condition a little. Even so, the intense pain in Su Zimo's head continued to surge like a tidal wave, battering his mind. Su Zimo's eyes were tightly shut. His face was contorted in pain as he continued to claw at random in the dark, narrow bronze square cauldron. Suddenly, Su Zimo's fingertips seemed to have accidentally touched a hard stone in the corner of the bronze square cauldron. Immediately after, a sharp pain surged in his mind again. This stone seemed to follow his finger and bore into his body, running into his brain. This feeling was somewhat familiar. It seemed like, Su Zimo suddenly let out a long howl and opened his eyes. A pitch-black stone seemed to have appeared in his left eye. In the blink of an eye, his entire left eye had turned pitch-black. As for his right eye, it had turned completely white. It was like a blazing sun that was embedded in his right eye, emitting a bedazzling light that illuminated the dark bronze square cauldron, as though it was daytime. As for Su Zimo's left eye, it shone with a dark and deep light, as though it wanted to devour everything. At that moment, Su Zimo regained his clarity of mind. It's the illumination stone, Su Zimo thought to himself. Just now, apart from the bronze square cauldron, the only thing that was intact against the attack of the underworld king was the illumination stone. The dragon phoenix's true body was destroyed and its flesh, tendons, bones and organs were all shattered. The illumination stone was also squeezed out by the power and fell into the bronze square cauldron. Even the dragon phoenix's essence spirit did not notice it. To think that by chance, the illumination stone would enter the body of the Qinglian's true body and fuse with its right eye. The illumination stone and nether light had a great background and were definitely not from the lower world. The illumination stone contained the blazing power of the sun. As for the nether light, it contained the cold and dark power of the Great Yin. Back in Tianhuang mainland, when he was fighting against the emperors of the primordial races, Su Zimo's two true bodies released two ocular techniques and transformed into yin and yang fishes that tore at each other. Against the entanglement of the yin and yang fishes, the peerless divine power of the thousand-eye emperor collapsed before it could truly condense. As for the power of the yin and yang fishes, it was still rising and was even going out of his control. Su Zimo hurriedly severed one of the powers and broke the chase of yin and yang, dissipating the terrifying power. Even so, blood flowed from Su Zimo's eyes at that time. If he did not stop it in time, Su Zimo might have been destroyed in the pursuit of the yin and yang fishes. But now, the illumination stone and nether light were gathered in a single body, and the yin and yang fishes reappeared. However, the yin and yang fishes did not appear outside this time round. The illumination stone was in the dragon phoenix true body all year round, and was connected by bloodline. The power of the sun was fused with the essence spirit of the dragon phoenix. As for the power of the nether light stone, it was fused with Qinglian's essence spirit. Initially, the two essence spirits were in an intense conflict and refused to give in to each other. However, due to the fusion of the powers of the sun and sun, they gradually came to a stop. The two essence spirits seemed to have transformed into yin and yang fishes that spun slowly in Su Zimo's consciousness and chased after each other. An extremely terrifying spirit consciousness fluctuation filled the bronze square tripod. If the king of Cloud Underworld and the others noticed this, they would definitely be shocked. This spirit consciousness fluctuation should not be released by a cultivator who had just ascended. The pain in Su Zimo's mind was alleviated significantly. However, the danger before him had yet to be resolved. That was because Su Zimo knew very well that the powers of the sun and sun were still in a balance right now. However, as the two powers continued to rise, the conflict between the yin and yang fishes would intensify, and they might even tear at each other. At that time, the two essence spirits would dissipate in the pursuit of the powers of yin and yang. What should I do? Su Zimo was anxious. There was nothing he could do in the face of this. Right now, the situation in his consciousness was completely out of his control. Boom! Suddenly, a deafening sound could be heard from outside the bronze square tripod. The attacks of the two experts caused a shocking collision. The terrifying power of the collision even pierced through the starry skies, near the bronze square tripod. A series of cracks appeared around the pierced starry skies. Immediately after, the starry skies began to collapse and a hole appeared. It grew deeper and deeper, and was pitch black within, as though it wanted to devour all living beings. A black hole in the starry skies, the king of Cloud Underworld exclaimed, as though he was extremely wary of the black hole. The starry skies could not withstand the attacks of the two experts, and underwent a mutation. As for the black hole in the starry skies, it was extremely terrifying. Even light would be devoured by it, let alone living beings of all races. Even the king of Cloud Underworld did not dare to enter it. 2K Reading Network. Chapter 1787. Su Zimo was still in the bronze square tripod. Before he could escape the danger, he felt a strong suction force acting on the bronze square tripod. He could not control himself, and felt like he was about to fall into a bottomless abyss. Immediately after, Su Zimo heard the king of the underworld exclaim about the black hole in the universe. Black hole in the universe? What was that? In Su Zimo's consciousness, the two primordial spirits were mixed with the power of the sun and moon. They spun slowly, and their auras rose continuously, becoming more violent and showing signs of collapse. Su Zimo could no longer think about too many things. His sea of consciousness was stirred into chaos. If not for the fact that the Creation Lotus platform was below him spewing out beams of green light that surged into the two primordial spirits, his soul would have dissipated long ago. Internal and external troubles. The black hole in the universe was a phenomenon that evolved after many changes in the universe of the upper world. It could devour everything, and even immortal kings would not dare to step into it. Seeing the bronze square tripod being sucked into the black hole in the universe, the king of the underworld was shocked and furious. His face was pale. The creation Qinglian was about to be in his hands, but she was sucked into the black hole in the universe. No matter how strong he was, there was nothing he could do at this moment. Swoosh! Suddenly, a bright silver light shot out from the other side of the universe. Like a bolt of lightning, it arrived instantly and entered the black hole in the universe. It was a horsetail whisk. A bunch of silver threads on the horsetail whisk seemed to have a mind of their own and were extremely extraordinary. They rushed into the black hole in the universe and reached for the bronze square tripod, wanting to pull it out. The person who made the move was not the king of the underworld, but someone else. Before this, when the king of the underworld was fighting with the mysterious woman, this person did not make a move. However, at this moment, seeing that the creation Qinglian was about to be devoured by the black hole in the universe, this person finally could not hold back and took out a Dharma treasure. However, the moment the silver threads on the horsetail whisk entered the black hole in the universe, the light dimmed. By the time the silver threads reached the top of the bronze square tripod, they were already at the end of their tether and were torn apart by the power of the black hole in the universe. In the blink of an eye, the silver threads were reduced to dust. In just a short while, the bronze square tripod had already entered the depths of the black hole and disappeared completely. Sigh! When the mysterious woman saw this, she let out a long sigh and quietly retreated. Cloud King's face was filled with murderous intent. Just as he was about to give chase, a voice came from the side. Don't go. Although your combat power is greater than hers, you can't catch up to her. Who is this woman? King Nuno's face was gloomy as he said. This woman seems to be shrouded in a layer of mist. I can't see her face at all. Can you see anything? On the other side of the starry sky, a figure was faintly discernible. In his hand was a bare wooden handle of a horsetail whisk. It was the person who just now wanted to take the bronze square cauldron out. I can't tell, this person said. However, there should be very few kings in the heaven realm who can do this. Damn it! The ethereal Cloud King looked indignant as he said hatefully, I have mobilized so many people to come here, and I only managed to destroy one of his avatars. That person also seemed to be a little resentful. He snorted coldly and said, I came here with you this time, but not only did I not gain anything, I even lost a Grotto Heaven magic treasure. I have nurtured that horsetail whisk for hundreds of thousands of years. I did not expect it to be destroyed in this starry sky black hole today, the ethereal Cloud King suddenly said. But then again, both of us have misjudged. That broken bronze cauldron is a rare treasure. That's right. That person nodded slightly and said, my horsetail whisk has been torn apart by the starry sky black hole. That bronze cauldron is already full of cracks, but it is still not completely broken. It seems that it has a strong background. However, it is meaningless to talk about this now. That bronze cauldron has fallen into the starry sky black hole. It is impossible to get it back. After saying this, the person's figure gradually faded away and disappeared into the depths of the starry sky. The ethereal Cloud King stood where he was and looked at the starry sky black hole not far away. He stood there for a long time. Even though he was indignant, he could only leave helplessly. In the starry sky black hole, there was no time and no light. The space inside was distorted. Anything that fell into it would be torn to pieces by the power of the black hole. Even if there was some kind of treasure that could resist the power of the starry sky black hole, it would be impossible to leave this place. The starry sky black hole was like a boundless sea of darkness. At this moment, a broken bronze square cauldron was floating in this sea of darkness. Normally, in the starry sky black hole, there would be darkness everywhere. There would be no light. But now, this bronze square cauldron was emitting a faint light. Moreover, as time passed, the light emitted by this bronze square cauldron became brighter and brighter. A strange change was happening in the bronze square cauldron. When the silver strands of the horsetail whisk were torn apart by the starry sky black hole and turned into silver powder, they should have been scattered in the starry sky black hole. But the strange thing was, a strong suction force suddenly burst out from the bronze square cauldron and sucked all the silver powder over. These silver powder passed through the living soil of the 9 heavens and fell into the bronze square cauldron. Although Su Zimo's sea of consciousness was in a mess, he could still feel this scene. Then, in his senses, the bronze square cauldron suddenly became boiling hot. Although this kind of heat did not hurt Su Zimo, it melted all the silver powder and emitted an extremely strong aura. Although the silver powder was shattered, it was a grotto heaven dharma treasure. Be it its material or the power it contained, it was extremely shocking. At this moment, as the bronze square cauldron smelted the silver powder, it began to absorb the power of the silver powder on its own. The bronze square cauldron was like a starving person, gulping down mouthfuls of silver powder. There were a total of 4 sides to the bronze square cauldron. During this process, the cracks on one of the inner walls of the bronze square cauldron were healing and repairing bit by bit. Initially, the bronze square cauldron had already undergone some changes after the baptism of the heavenly tribulation and absorbed the essence chi of heaven and earth. It began to emit a faint light and had a reaction. However, the body of the cauldron was still broken and showed no signs of repairing. But now, the bronze square cauldron was starting to repair itself after devouring the silver powder. When he noticed this, Su Zimo was delighted. Right then, he felt an intense impact in his mind once more. As though he was struck by lightning, Su Zimo's face turned pale, and he almost fainted. In his sea of consciousness, the chase between the 2 essence spirits intensified, and he could no longer endure it. If he could not think of a solution, his 2 essence spirits would collapse completely, and his soul would dissipate. Ah! Su Zimo gripped his fists tightly with a pained expression as he let out a series of deep growls. All of a sudden, a series of golden lights seemed to flash before Su Zimo's eyes. Su Zimo looked over with widened eyes. As the cracks on one of the walls of the bronze square cauldron healed, lines of words appeared on one of the inner walls that shone with a faint golden light. Chapter 1788. The golden words were extremely strange and did not belong to the language of Tianhuang mainland, but an ancient Sanskrit of the Buddhist monasteries. If anyone else saw the Sanskrit, they would not be able to recognize a single word. However, Su Zimo was proficient in Buddhism. When he was a mortal, Daiyu placed the Siraka flower in his body, and it became the root of his wisdom. As such, He had extremely deep attainments in Sanskrit of the Buddhist monasteries as well. Su Zimo endured the pain in his mind and was on the brink of a mental breakdown. Instinctively, he recited the first line of words on the inner walls of the bronze square tripod. Wisdom, Nirvana Sutra. Boom. Suddenly Su Zimo's mind vibrated. The two essence spirits that fused with the power of sun and moon were initially clashing and chasing each other wildly, with an increasingly intense conflict. However, the moment Su Zimo recited the 5 Sanskrit words, the two essence spirits paused for a moment. The power of sun and moon seemed to have eased up significantly, and were no longer as tense as they were just now. Su Zimo gained a brief moment of clarity, and vaguely realized that the golden Sanskrit words on the inner walls of the bronze square tripod were most likely the key to resolving the danger in his body. Prajna in Buddhism represented wisdom. However, the nirvana of Buddhism and the nirvana of the phoenix race had a completely different meaning. Nirvana in the Buddhist Dharma was a supreme realm where a monk could cut off all the worries of time and reach the state of transcendence, great enlightenment, and understanding of one's nature through enlightenment. Su Zimo widened his eyes and continued reading the golden Sanskrit words on the inner walls. With that look, Su Zimo felt that the Sanskrit words were filled with profoundness, as though they contained the deepest essence of Buddhism. Every single golden Sanskrit word contained boundless wisdom upon careful analysis. Given Su Zimo's current attainments in Buddhism, it was difficult for him to comprehend the Sanskrit words within a short period of time. In Tianhuang mainland, one of the 6 major Buddhist monasteries was Wisdom Temple. Su Zimo had cultivated the Wisdom Sutra, an important secret sutra of the Buddhist monasteries in Wisdom Temple. However, the profoundness of the Wisdom Sutra paled in comparison to the Wisdom Nirvana Sutra before him. At this moment, in Su Zimo's mind, the two primordial divinities chased and collided once more. His entire body shook violently, and he couldn't help but cry out in pain. If this continued, he wouldn't be able to hold on for more than a few breaths of time before his head would explode, and his two primordial divinities would disperse as well. Su Zimo quickly collected his thoughts and focused his gaze. Then, he began to recite the Sanskrit characters on the inner wall of the bronze square cauldron. A series of ancient Sanskrit chants reverberated within the nearly sealed bronze square cauldron. They were divine and vast, and possessed boundless power. Su Zimo's eyes flickered with dazzling golden light. He seemed to have an illusion. The golden Sanskrit characters on the inner wall of the bronze square cauldron were falling off one by one and rushing into his sea of consciousness. A holy and peaceful power descended upon the two primordial spirits that were clashing against each other. Under the support of this power, the two primordial spirits gradually calmed down. The two primordial spirits that had merged the power of the sun and the power of the moon seemed to have turned into two giant fish of different colors, one black and one white. They were connected head to tail and gradually approached each other. Originally, the power of the yin and yang fishes were diametrically opposed and couldn't merge at all. However, at this moment, a thin golden line appeared in the middle of the yin and yang fishes. It evolved into a perfect arc and merged the two powers together. This thin golden line was formed from the power of the wisdom of Nirvana Sutra. The yin and yang fishes were connected by this thin golden line and almost perfectly merged together. They slowly rotated, and their auras gradually stabilized. Su Zimo panted heavily, and his entire body was drenched. However, his eyes flickered with the joy of surviving a calamity. The bronze square cauldron had absorbed the weapon of the immortal king expert, and only repaired one side of the cauldron. The wisdom of Nirvana Sutra, recorded on this side of the cauldron, was incomplete, and could only be considered one of the volumes. If these Sanskrit characters couldn't suppress the sun, moon, and his two primordial spirits, he would be helpless. At this moment, the black and white yin and yang fishes were slowly rotating on the lotus platform of creation. They absorbed the green light spewing out of the lotus platform and emitted a powerful aura. As time passed, the yin and yang fishes gradually changed and condensed into a new primordial spirit. It was Su Zimo's appearance. Success! Su Zimo was overjoyed. The fusion of the two primordial spirits was successful. Not only that, Su Zimo could clearly sense that this brand new primordial spirit was much higher than his current cultivation realm. What surprised Su Zimo even more was that not only was his primordial spirit nourished by the lotus platform of creation, the two illumination stones and nether fluorescent stones that were fused into his eyes were also emitting traces of power to nourish his primordial spirit. With that, Qinglian's primordial spirit had endless potential and had a greater chance of growing to a grade 10, grade 11, or even the legendary grade 12. Daiyu had once said that the 4 grades after Qinglian's creation were all great creations. Now that Su Zimo's Qinglian's true body had transformed to a grade 9, those words had already come true. He had obtained an utmost treasure, the 9 heavens living soil. He did not know what kind of creations the next 3 realms would give birth to. This fusion of the primordial spirits was something Su Zimo had no choice but to do. That was the only way to minimize the losses brought about by this calamity. Not only did his primordial spirit realm soar after the primordial spirit fusion, he even activated the bronze square tripod completely by chance and obtained an ancient Buddhist sutra from it. That Buddhist sutra was clearly extremely effective for cultivating the primordial spirit. If not for that, it would not have been possible for Yin and Yang to converge and fuse his 2 primordial spirits. More importantly, the secret skills and divine powers such as reverse scale and Baron in the Dragon Phoenix essence spirit were not lost and were completely fused with Qinglian's true body. After the fusion of the primordial spirits, Qinglian's true body had an obvious increase in combat strength as well. This was way too important for him to ascend to the upper realm. He had already encountered such a calamity before ascending to the upper realm. It was hard to imagine what sort of dangers he would face when he truly descended to the upper realm. Of course, the fusion of the 2 primordial spirits was not without losses. At the very least, Qinglian's true body could no longer release the nirvana divine power of the Phoenix race. In order to activate this innate divine power, apart from enlightenment, the most important thing was to possess the blood of the divine Phoenix. The blood of the Phoenix flowed within the Dragon Phoenix essence spirit, but Qinglian's true body did not. This bit of loss was nothing to Su Zimo. Even if he could activate this divine power, Su Zimo would not dare to do so. That was because the nirvana divine power was extremely dangerous to begin with. If he relied on this divine power, it would not be of much benefit to his cultivation. Cloud Underworld King. When I ascend to the upper realm, I'll definitely take revenge. In the bronze square tripod, Su Zimo thought of the destroyed Dragon Phoenix essence spirit and could not help but say word by word with a cold expression and murderous gaze. Su Zimo did not know that although the crisis of his primordial spirit was temporarily resolved, he was not out of danger yet. Right now, he was engulfed by the black hole in the cosmos. In this space without light, time, essence, chi and matter, he could not get out at all, let alone ascend to the upper realm. If there were no accidents, he would drift in the black hole in the cosmos forever, until his lifespan was exhausted. My thoughts have been straightened out. If there are no accidents, I'll start to make up for it tomorrow. I haven't slept well these days, and I don't even dare to look at the book review section. I've probably been scolded badly. Fellow Taoists, please be merciful. End of chapter. Chapter 1789. Tianhuang Mainland, North Region, Pingyang Town. Wu Dao's true body stood in the courtyard and gazed into the firmaments with a cold gaze, exuding a chilling, killing intent. The atmosphere in the courtyard turned extremely oppressive. Momo frowned slightly at the side, somewhat worried. She had accompanied Wu Dao's true body for many years, but she had never seen Wu Dao's true body reveal such a gaze, or exude such a terrifying and oppressive aura. Even in the war against the primordial races and blood fiends back then, Wu Dao's true body was calm the entire time. But now that Wu Dao's true body revealed such a gaze, something major must have happened. Young master, did something happen? Momo could not help but ask. Wu Dao's true body remained silent and shook his head gently without explaining. Although he could not see the situation in the cosmos, he could still sense the calamity that the Dragon Phoenix true body encountered clearly. A moment later, Wu Dao's true body flashed and appeared in the depths of the firmaments. Outside Tianhuang mainland, a gigantic ball of flames was falling downwards with a terrifying aura filled with blood qi. That gigantic ball of flames was the Dragon Phoenix true body that was destroyed by the Nether King of Cloud. Although the life force of the Dragon Phoenix true body was destroyed by the Nether King of Cloud, the bloodline that flowed through its body still contained immense power. Wu Dao's true body reached out and created a space to catch the Dragon Phoenix true body. Immediately after, he tore through the void and returned to Pingyang town. What is this? Tao Yao asked in surprise when he saw Wu Dao's true body return with a bloodied and tattered corpse in his hand. He was confused. The life force of the Dragon Phoenix true body had long been destroyed by the Nether King of Cloud and was shattered beyond recognition. Even its skeleton could not be seen. This is the Dragon Phoenix true body that I cultivated. It was destroyed by someone. Wu Dao's true body said slowly. Ah! Momo exclaimed and was shocked. Then what about young master's Qinglian true body? Will she be fine? Momo was very smart. She immediately thought that Su Zimo's two true bodies must have ascended to the upper realm and encountered a great disaster. That was why he ended up like this. I don't know. Wu Dao shook his head. When he caught the Dragon Phoenix real body just now, there was still a weak connection between him and Qinglian real body, although it was already faintly discernible. At this moment, Wu Dao's main body was completely unable to sense the existence of Qinglian's true body, because at this moment, Qinglian's true body had been swallowed up by the black hole along with the bronze square cauldron, and she was completely isolated from the outside world. Wu Dao's main body took a deep breath and calmed down. No matter what happened to Qinglian's true body, the only thing he could do now was to wait patiently and continue to cultivate. Thankfully, due to certain reasons, Wu Dao's true body did not choose to ascend and instead stayed in Tianhuang mainland. Otherwise, Wu Dao's true body would have been doomed as well. After pondering for a moment, Wu Dao's true body moved his spirit consciousness and pulled out the heavenly wolf that was burned by the three flames from his storage bag. After Wu Dao's true body comprehended the tribulation fire, he joined forces with his martial spirit fire and red lotus karmic fire to burn the heavenly wolf. That was the drop of blood in the silver mask. What treasure is that bronze cauldron? What's its background? Wu Dao's true body asked. I don't know. The heavenly wolf cried out in pain and shouted. When I woke up, I already lost my memories. I only know that it's called the Hell Suppression Cauldron, and I forgot everything else. It's useless even if you burn me. Wu Dao's true body sneered. The heavenly wolf was clearly dishonest. If it was truly as he said, why would he impart the three-corpse technique to the blood demon Dao Lord if he had already lost his memories? The three-corpse technique was the top cloning technique of the fiend sections. If the heavenly wolf could remember that secret skill clearly, how could it forget the origin of the bronze square cauldron? Wu Dao's true body glared at the heavenly wolf in the flame prison in silence. Although the heavenly wolf was jumping up and down in pain from the three flames, it could still endure it and refused to say anything. The three types of flames were only enough to threaten the heavenly wolf. It was still not enough to completely refine it. Wu Dao's true body ignored it and tossed it into his storage bag. Momo, I'm preparing to enter seclusion. I'll leave this to you. Wu Dao's true body turned around and whispered to Momo. Don't worry, young master. I'll definitely protect Pingyang town and you well. Momo replied hurriedly with unconcealable worry in her eyes. After pausing for a moment, Momo asked, Young master, are you all right? Momo knew the origin of the Dragon Phoenix true body and what it meant to Su Zimo. That was the reason why she was worried that Su Zimo would not be able to withstand such a blow. If he were to cultivate in seclusion under such circumstances, it would be extremely easy for him to develop mental demons or even suffer chi deviation. I'm fine. Wu Dao's true body smiled faintly. Although the Dragon Phoenix true body was destroyed, he did not disappear. During this seclusion, Wu Dao's true body was prepared to fuse the Dragon Phoenix true body into this body. It might be extremely difficult for Qinglian's true body to fuse with the Dragon Phoenix true body. However, it was much easier for Wu Dao's true body to refine the Dragon Phoenix true body. Wu Dao's true body returned to the cultivation field set up by Daiyu with the Dragon Phoenix true body, and channeled his blood qi slowly. In the blink of an eye, Wu Dao's true body vanished. In its place was a gigantic furnace that burned with raging flames. There were 3 types of flames burning around the furnace. The body of Wu Dao's true body was a gigantic furnace that could refine all scriptures, divine powers, and even flesh. Wu Dao's true body tossed the Dragon Phoenix true body into the furnace and began refining it. If he could refine the Dragon Phoenix true body completely, Wu Dao's true body might be able to master another type of flame. Black hole in the cosmos. After drifting here for an unknown period of time, Su Zimo curled up in the bronze square tripod with a pale face and furrowed brows. Although he would not be devoured by the power of the black hole, if he hid in the bronze square tripod, he could not sense the passage of time here. There was no sound around him. A sense of loneliness that could drive one crazy kept surging in one's heart. The surroundings were dark, as though he was the only one left in the darkness, wandering aimlessly without an end. The bronze square tripod could only isolate tangible powers. In the black hole, the invisible power was affecting Su Zimo at all times. Initially, Su Zimo could still calm down and comprehend the perfection of Wisdom Nirvana Sutra. However, as time passed by, Su Zimo became more and more frustrated. To be precise, he did not know how much time had passed. A month? A year? 10 years? If he could sense the passage of time, Su Zimo would feel much better. However, this sense of emptiness, loneliness, and powerlessness tortured him all the time. This was more terrifying than any power. He could only wait alone in this narrow space. The connection between him and Wu Dao's true body was completely severed. Su Zimo shouted in the bronze square tripod, but there was no response. Only his echoes gradually weakened in the tripod. His spirit consciousness penetrated the 9 heaven breath soil, wanting to investigate the outside world. However, the moment his spirit consciousness left the bronze square tripod, it was devoured by the power of the black hole. He floated just like that. After an unknown period of time, Su Zimo's spirit was almost on the verge of breaking down. Actually, Su Zimo was in the bronze square tripod and could not see the situation outside. It was not that there was no light in the black hole. The outer wall of the bronze square tripod was the only light in the black hole. Chapter 1790. If there were other living beings in the black hole, they would definitely be able to discover the shimmering bronze square tripod. 3 sides of the bronze square tripod were shattered, but one of the cracks on the wall had already been repaired. A divine dragon carving appeared on the repaired wall of the tripod. It was lifelike and exuded a powerful might. The divine dragon carved on the wall of the tripod had its head facing the vast emptiness with its eyes tightly shut. All of a sudden, the mystical dragon seemed to have come alive. Its pair of dragon eyes suddenly opened. Its gaze was clear and revealed an aura of indifference to all living things. It was incomparable. Roar! An incomparably mighty dragon roar sounded, piercing through metal and rocks. The divine dragon actually burrowed out from the wall of the tripod slowly. Its body was covered in green scales that shone with a cold glint, and its claws were sharp, as though they could pierce through everything. The divine dragon on the bronze square tripod had truly come alive. The divine dragon looked around and seemed to have realized where it was. Its gigantic dragon tail wrapped around the bronze square tripod and sped in a certain direction. Dragon roar. Su Zimo murmured with a lost expression in the bronze square tripod. Was I hallucinating? Immediately after, Su Zimo felt his body slam heavily against the inner wall, and he seemed to be moving rapidly in a certain direction. It had been a long time since he had such a feeling. Within the black hole, Su Zimo could not sense the flow of time or direction. In fact, he could not even sense if he was moving. But now, all those senses were returning to him. He was in disbelief. After a long time, Su Zimo suddenly felt his body lighten. Although he was still in the relatively narrow bronze square tripod, he no longer had the maddening feeling of nothingness, emptiness, and annihilation. A long-lost aura seeped into the bronze square tripod through the 9 heavens breath soil. It seemed to be heaven and earth essence chi. Immediately after, Su Zimo sensed the flow of time. Could I have already left the black hole? Su Zimo's eyes widened in shock. The green divine dragon carried the bronze square cauldron and rushed out of the black hole. Its power seemed to have been exhausted, and it became dim. After drifting in the black hole for such a long time, the divine dragon escaped with the bronze square cauldron. He had already deviated from the position where the king of tranquil clouds had attacked. He was surrounded by a vast and boundless starry sky with some floating stars. On the other side of these stars, there was a huge shadow. It was unknown what kind of colossus it was. It was impossible to see the end of it. The divine dragon sensed a little and swept up the bronze square cauldron. Then it descended towards one of the stars around the shadow. At first, the falling speed of the bronze square cauldron was still under control. The light emitted by this divine dragon grew dimmer and dimmer. In the end, it turned into a green light and returned to the undamaged side of the bronze square cauldron. The falling of the bronze square cauldron was completely out of control, falling faster and faster. Inside the bronze square cauldron, Su Zimo suddenly realized that something was amiss. He hurriedly withdrew the 9 heavens life soil and spread out his divine sense in an attempt to investigate the situation outside. At this moment, because the bronze square cauldron was falling too fast, the surroundings were already burning with flames. Su Zimo had been drifting in the black hole in the starry sky for many years. He had just escaped, and his reaction was still a little slow. He was shocked and wanted to control the speed of the bronze square cauldron. However, it was too late. Boom! There was a loud bang. The bronze square cauldron had already landed heavily on this star, creating a huge crater. Dust was flying everywhere. Although Su Zimo was inside the bronze square cauldron, he also suffered a huge impact. He flew out violently and rolled on the ground for more than 100 feet before coming to a stop. This time, Su Zimo had suffered a heavy fall. He was dizzy and his bones felt like they were about to break. Of course, compared to the interception of the king of the underworld and the destruction in the black hole in the starry sky, such injuries were nothing to him. The most important thing was that he had survived. He had escaped from the interception of the king of the underworld and the black hole in the starry sky. Although his body was in unbearable pain and was covered in mud, Su Zimo was quite happy and relieved. At this moment, there was a commotion in the distance. It seemed like many people had heard the commotion and were rushing over. Su Zimo could not help but laugh. He had been drifting in the black hole in the starry sky for a long time. There was no sound and no other life. Although he did not know whether the people coming were friends or foes, Su Zimo felt very close to them at this moment. What happened? Why is there such a big commotion? I just saw a ball of fire falling from the sky. It should be a meteorite. Looking at the direction, it seems to be the spiritual field under Duan Tianliang's jurisdiction. Then Su Zimo heard a series of chaotic footsteps approaching from afar. Hiss! What a guy! Someone sucked in a cold breath. The crater created by the meteorite destroyed more than a dozen mu of spiritual fields. Thousands of vitality-nurturing grass and rain flowers are all destroyed. Hehe, this is a natural disaster. It's not the fault of others. Duan Tianliang is probably crying his eyes out. Someone gloated. Keep your voice down. Don't let him hear you. Fatty Duan is extremely petty. If he finds out about this, he won't be able to vent his anger. Don't blame it on us. Su Zimo had yet to recover from the heavy fall. Sprawled on the ground, he secretly adjusted his breathing and healed his injuries. Given the recovery capabilities of Qinglian's true body, this bit of injury could be healed in less than half an instance's time. Su Zimo could sense the surrounding heaven and earth essence chi. Although it was a little thin, if he was not wrong, this should be the upper world. There were 3,000 worlds in the upper world. However, he did not know which world he had fallen into. He was extremely unfamiliar with the vitality-nurturing grass and rain flowers that those people were talking about. He had not seen them in the ancient books of Tianhuang mainland either. Right then, someone exclaimed softly, "This doesn't seem like a meteorite. There seems to be a bronze tripod at the bottom of the crater." Indeed, many people came forward. Some of them could not hold back their curiosity and jumped into the crater, picking up the bronze tripod. Heh, that person exhaled. After picking up the bronze tripod, he placed it down heavily. This fella is quite heavy. I wonder what grade of Dharma treasure this bronze tripod is. It's useless no matter what Dharma treasure it is. It's already destroyed to such an extent. That person tossed the bronze tripod to the ground casually and did not take another look at it. Everyone instinctively thought that the bronze tripod was shattered to such an extent because it fell from the skies and struck the ground. Su Zimo chuckled internally. Although one of the walls of the bronze tripod was repaired, the other 3 walls were still shattered. If even an expert like the king of underworld clouds had misjudged it, what more these people? Why is there a ravine that's dozens of feet long over there? Right then, someone pointed to the edge of the crater and said with a frown. Everyone looked in the direction of the ravine. There seems to be someone over there. That ravine was created by that person on the ground. Hurry, let's go take a look. There's no need to. The spirit fields beneath our feet are already in such a state. What kind of body can withstand that? He must have died a long time ago. Thank you to the blue cat and the others for your tips. Thank you for your understanding. End of chapter. Chapter 1791. Just as everyone was discussing, the figure at the end of the ravine moved. Immediately after, under everyone's gaze, the figure crawled up from the mud bit by bit. He's not dead yet. Everyone was shocked. That person looked like he had fallen terribly. His clothes were torn, and his face was covered in blood and mud, making it difficult to see his original appearance. Only his eyes were bright and clear, shining brightly. Su Zimo looked extremely wretched and miserable. However, in this short period of time, the injuries in his body had already healed by 70 to 80%. The wounds on his body had long healed and stopped bleeding. That person is a mystic immortal. Yes, I reckon that he just ascended from the lower realm. However, I don't know how he fell from the sky and landed in our snow-wind ridge. Su Zimo could clearly sense that the people before him had released their spirit consciousnesses to check him out. Dayu once told him that after ascending to the upper realm, he would face 3 major realms: mystic essence, earth essence and heavenly essence. Each major realm had 9 levels. Mystic essence cultivators were known as mystic immortals. The mystic immortals that these people were talking about must be mystic essence, level 1 cultivators. Only a mystic immortal? Su Zimo frowned slightly. He did not expect that after transcending the 49 heavenly tribulations in the lower realm, he would only be a mystic immortal in the upper realm. Su Zimo also released his spirit consciousnesses and scanned the dozens of people before him. He could clearly sense that most of them were mystic immortals at level 1. Only the 2 leaders were mystic immortals at level 2. However, even though he was facing mystic immortals at level 2, Su Zimo had a feeling that he could easily crush them with the power in his body. It was not because of the true body of a grade 9 Qinglian, or some mystic skill or divine ability. This feeling seemed to be a suppression in terms of cultivation realm. Su Zimo had just ascended to the upper realm and was not familiar with everything in the upper realm. He merely felt that something was amiss. Su Zimo felt the ground beneath his feet and breathed in the surrounding air, trying his best to sense, adapt and familiarize himself with it. Everything here was vastly different from Tianhuang mainland. Under normal circumstances, given the physical toughness of the rank 9 Qinglian's true body, she would be perfectly fine even if she fell from the sky onto Tianhuang mainland. But now, Su Zimo was injured after falling down mainly because the gravity here was dozens of times stronger than in Tianhuang mainland. If one didn't undergo the tribulation and fuse their flesh and blood with the yuan qi of heaven and earth, an ordinary person wouldn't be able to withstand the gravitational force and would explode on the spot. Furthermore, Su Zimo had just lightly stomped on the ground. He could clearly feel that the ground under his feet was even harder and firmer. When the bronze square cauldron fell from the sky, it only smashed a large hole in the ground. If it were to land on Tianhuang mainland with that power, it would create a gigantic valley. What happened? Get out of my way. A round-faced fatty with a fat head and big ears ran in from outside. His expression was ugly, and he looked aggressive. Fatty Duan is here. Get out of the way. Heh, he destroyed more than 10 mu of spirit fields. That lad is going to suffer. Someone shook his head and whispered, Duan Tianliang is narrow-minded and heartless. He won't let that lad off easily. Although these people had lowered their voices, Su Zimo's hearing was strong, and he could still hear them clearly. Duan Tianliang approached, and saw the large hole in the spirit fields not far away. When he saw the cracks spreading everywhere, his round face darkened completely. Shifting his gaze, Duan Tianliang looked at Su Zimo and asked coldly, You did this? Yes. Su Zimo nodded. It's my first time here, and I accidentally destroyed these spirit fields. I don't know how I should compensate you. Please enlighten me. Su Zimo was polite, and it was not because he wanted to show weakness. However, he was indeed the one who did it, and was in the wrong. Furthermore, he had just ascended to the upper world, and everything around him was unknown. It was better to be cautious. Fufu. When they heard Su Zimo's words, everyone laughed and shook their heads. Duan Tianliang's expression turned even uglier as he gritted his teeth. More than 10 mu of spirit fields were destroyed. The life of a mystic immortal like you isn't even worth the thousands of immortal herbs in the spirit fields. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes and remained silent. What's going on? At this moment, a gentle and beautiful voice sounded. Su Zimo looked sideways and saw 6 people walking towards them. Leading them was a young woman in a snow-white cloak. She was beautiful and elegant. She had an oval face, clear eyes, and light makeup. Her black hair cascaded down her shoulders like a waterfall. The woman had less of an ethereal immortal aura, and more of a pugilistic aura, making one feel close to her unknowingly. Su Zimo scanned the woman with his spirit consciousness. This woman's cultivation realm was clearly far above Duan Tianliang's. Su Zimo speculated that this woman was most likely a mystic immortal of the 4th level. The woman seemed to have a high status, as she was followed by 5 mystic immortals who looked like guards. One of them was a man in armor, and had a cold expression, as he followed closely behind the woman. His cultivation realm was similar to the woman's. The remaining 4 guards followed behind the man. Their cultivation realms were also lower than the man's. Eldest young mistress is here. A low exclamation came from the crowd in front of the spirit fields. Greetings, eldest young mistress. Immediately after, everyone in the spirit fields cupped their hands and bowed to the young woman. The woman smiled gently, and cupped her fists in return. Thank you for your hard work, everyone. Greetings, Commander Liang. Everyone then bowed to the cold man behind the woman. The cold man raised his head slightly, looking proud and aloof. He only let out a hum sound from his nose as a response. When Duan Tianliang saw the 2 of them, he quickly trotted over. Just now, the gloominess on his face had completely disappeared, leaving only grievance and unwillingness as he wailed loudly. Eldest young mistress, you have to uphold justice for me. For decades, I have worked hard, conscientiously, and diligently to manage these spirit fields. I did not dare to slack off at all. Hearing this, many people secretly curled their lips. Duan Tianliang continued. Just as the elemental nurturing grass and rain flowers were about to mature, this person destroyed more than 10 acres of the spirit fields. Thousands of elemental nurturing grass and rain flowers are gone. Eldest young mistress, this is not my fault. It's all this person's fault. From the beginning to the end, Su Zimo did not speak or argue. He just stood there quietly. The young woman looked at Su Zimo with a trace of surprise in her eyes, but it quickly disappeared. Commander Liang glanced at Su Zimo. Seeing that the latter was dirty and covered in blood and mud, a trace of disgust flashed across his face. He retracted his gaze and refused to look at him anymore. Chapter 1792. Who are you? Where did you ascend from? The young woman looked at Su Zimo with bright eyes and asked. I'm Su Zimo from the Pingyang continent of the lower realm. Su Zimo's words were half true and half false. There was nothing to hide about his name. Even if he said it, it would not attract any attention. Although the king of underworld clouds was his greatest enemy, he did not know his name. However, he had just arrived in the upper realm, and everything around him was unknown. Out of caution, Su Zimo hid Tianhuang mainland and changed his name to Pingyang town where he was born. There were billions of small kiliocosms in the lower realm. Even if he made it up, the woman before him would not be able to find any loopholes. Why did you descend from the skies and land here? The young woman asked again. Su Zimo replied, there was an accident when I ascended. I wonder where this is. I heard that the upper realm is vast and boundless with 3,000 worlds. I wonder which world this is. Su Zimo merely mentioned his experience when he ascended casually, before changing the topic and asking. When everyone saw how Su Zimo was behaving, they laughed one after another. They had the same experience before as well. They had just ascended and descended here. Everything in the upper realm was new and unknown to them. Commander Liang's lips curled slightly, with a disdainful expression. The young woman did not show anything and said, this is Dragon Abyss Planet, a planet under the jurisdiction of Azure Cloud County. The land beneath your feet belongs to Snowwind Ridge. Dragon Abyss Planet? Azure Cloud County? Snowwind Ridge? Su Zimo was stunned. A planet was under the jurisdiction of a county? How big was the Cyan Cloud County? As for which world this belongs to in the upper realm, I don't know either. The young woman hesitated for a moment before saying, that's because I've never left Dragon Abyss Planet. Su Zimo was stunned and looked around instinctively. The others were calm as well, and clearly did not doubt the young woman's words. In other words, these people did not know which world this was in, and had never left Dragon Abyss Planet either. Why don't you leave? Su Zimo asked. Ignorant fool. When he heard this, Commander Liang laughed coldly and said, not to mention Dragon Abyss Star. You'll be considered capable if you're able to walk 5,000 kilometers away from Snowwind Ridge alive. Duan Tianliang didn't dare to interrupt when the young woman was talking to Su Zimo. He was observant, and when he saw Commander Liang's sarcasm, he jumped out hurriedly and pointed at Su Zimo. What country bumpkin from Pingyang continent? Are you mocking our missy? I think you're asking for a beating. Duan Tianliang turned around and cupped his fists at the young woman. Eldest miss, don't worry. Leave this person to me. I promised to teach him a lesson. Someone at the side couldn't stand it anymore, and tried to smooth things over. He just ascended and doesn't know the situation. You can't blame him. Little brother, let me tell you. I have ascended for tens of thousands of years, but I have never left the Dragon Abyss Planet. That's right. It doesn't matter if you know which realm this is. It's already not bad for us to have the chance to go to Dragon Lake City once in our lifetime. Everyone chimed in. Su Zimo was shocked. His heart had suffered a huge blow. Those who could ascend were all geniuses from the lower realm. However, these people had ascended for tens of thousands of years, and still couldn't leave the Dragon Abyss Planet. It was only now that Su Zimo truly felt the vastness and mystery of the upper realm. Eldest miss, why do you have to explain so much to this person? Just leave it to these farmers. Commander Liang said softly. The young woman nodded slightly and looked at Su Zimo. No matter what, you have destroyed this spirit field. You have to compensate for it. According to the rules of Snowwind Ridge, Stage 1 Mystic Immortals have to start as farmers. They have to plant 2 types of immortal herbs, the vitality-nurturing grass and the rain flower. Normally, every farmer has to plant 10 mu of land. Since you have destroyed 13 mu of land, the immortal herbs in these 13 mu of land will be planted by you. You can only leave Snowwind Ridge when the 2 types of immortal herbs in these 13 mu of land have matured. Of course, you can also choose to stay. Snowwind Ridge treats everyone equally. If you can cultivate to Stage 2 Mystic Immortal, you can become a deacon in Snowwind Ridge and manage the farmers. Hearing this, Su Zimo looked at Duan Tianliang, who was not far away. The young woman smiled and said, you are right. Duan Tianliang is one of the deacons in Snowwind Ridge. If you have any questions, you can ask him. Eldest miss, don't worry. Duan Tianliang patted his chest and said, leave this person to me. The young woman frowned slightly and said, he has just ascended and is seriously injured. Let him rest for a while first. There is no need to rush the planting. Yes. Duan Tianliang quickly nodded in agreement. However, he sneered in his heart. Brat, you destroyed more than 10 mu of my spirit fields. See how I will torture you. The young woman cupped her hands and left after bidding farewell to everyone. Not long after, the young woman had already left. However, she seemed to have thought of something and turned back. She came in front of Su Zimo and took out a jade bottle and a talisman from her storage bag. She handed it over and said softly, "There are some spirit herbs in this jade bottle. They might be of help to your injuries. In the lower realm, cleansing is only a small dermic art. However, in the upper realm, the dust removal art is an immortal art. Since you have not cultivated it yet, keep this dust removal talisman first. Go back and clean the dirt on your body and rest well." Su Zimo was slightly moved. Although it was nothing much, he felt a sense of warmth in his heart. He had just ascended and did not know the woman before him. It was extremely rare in the cultivation world of Tianhuang region for this woman to be kind to a stranger. "Little brother, take it. Eldest miss is very nice," an honest-looking middle-aged man at the side said with a smile. "Don't just stand there. Take it." When the young woman saw that Su Zimo was still motionless, she took the initiative to pull up Su Zimo's muddy palm and place the bottle and dust removal talisman on it. The young woman's action was very natural and free. She was not restrained by the etiquette that men and women should not touch each other. More importantly, she did not despise Su Zimo, even though his hands and face were dirty right now. Initially, Su Zimo was hesitant about whether he should stay in Snow Wind Ridge. Given his capabilities, Duan Tianliang would definitely not be able to stop him if he wanted to leave. It was only at this moment that he made the decision to stay in Snow Wind Ridge for the time being and familiarize himself with his surroundings and Dragon Abyss planet before making any further plans. Suddenly, Su Zimo laughed in a self-deprecating manner. He had once thought that ascending to the upper realm would definitely be extremely dangerous and treacherous. He would have to fight everywhere and be bathed in blood. He would have to fight against countless paragons. He would have to fight against the experts of the 10,000 worlds. However, he had never expected that he would come here to farm after ascending to the upper realm. End of chapter. Chapter 1793. Looking at the medicine bottle and dust removal talisman in his hands, Su Zimo smiled faintly and asked the young woman, "How should I address you, miss?" That question was a little abrupt. After all, in the eyes of others, there was a huge difference in status and cultivation realm between the two of them. However, there was no hint of blame in the young woman's eyes, and she merely smiled. "Who do you think you are?" Right then, Commander Liang strode forward and glared at Su Zimo coldly, scolding, "A lowly servant like you is not qualified to ask about the name of the first missy." Servant. Su Zimo raised his brow. Up till this point of his cultivation, this was the first time he had heard the term servant. Liang Qiu. The young woman frowned slightly and glanced sideways with a displeased expression. "I've told you many times that everyone ascended from the lower realm, and there's no difference in status. Liang Qiu, you merely ascended 10,000 years earlier than him. Why do you have to be so sarcastic?" "You're right, first missy." Liang Qiu lowered his head slightly with an ugly expression, but did not dare to refute. The young woman looked at Su Zimo and smiled apologetically. "My name is Xia Qingying. Liang Qiu is not a bad person by nature. It's just that his words are a little harsh. Please don't take offense." Su Zimo smiled and nodded. Liang Qiu secretly glared at Su Zimo and whispered to the young woman, "First missy, there's nothing else here. Let's go." The young woman nodded slightly and turned to leave again. Disperse, disperse. Go back and look after your spirit fields. Don't join in the fun." When Duan Tianliang saw that Xia Qingying and Liang Qiu had left, he straightened his back and became spirited as he commanded everyone arrogantly. Many people looked at Su Zimo with expressions that said good luck before dispersing. Duan Tianliang walked toward Su Zimo. Duan Tianliang was fat and not tall. When he arrived in front of Su Zimo, he had to raise his head and look up at the ladder. Su Zimo's expression was indifferent, and his eyes were calm. Duan Tianliang smiled coldly and said, Bumpkin, don't worry. The first miss has ordered you to recuperate first. I won't make things difficult for you. There, you live over there. Duan Tianliang pointed to a thatched cottage not far away. Su Zimo couldn't be bothered to pay attention to this person. He went to the big pit and put away the bronze square cauldron. Then, he turned around and walked towards the thatched cottage. Bah! Looking at Su Zimo's back, Duan Tianliang spat and said with a sneer, Damn it! A stage 1 mystic immortal. Why are you so arrogant in front of me? I'll show you in a few days. The hut was simple and crude. There was only a bamboo bed, a table, and a few bamboo stools. Su Zimo had just escaped from the black hole in the starry sky. He had been curled up in the bronze square cauldron for an unknown amount of time. To him, this thatched cottage was simply a paradise. After Su Zimo entered the hut, he tore up the dust removal talisman. A mysterious force enveloped his body. In the blink of an eye, the soil on his body disappeared completely. Su Zimo took out a new green robe from his storage bag. As he put it on, he pondered. Although he had already ascended to the upper realm and came to the Dragon Abyss planet, he still had many doubts in his heart. The biggest doubt was, of course, which realm did this place belong to? Xia Qingying had once said that everyone was an ascendant from the lower realm. Did this mean that everyone in Feng Shuling was an ascendant, or that the entire Dragon Abyss planet was an ascendant? If it was the latter, then it was a little strange. On such a big planet, were there no native living beings from the upper realm? And his cultivation. He had passed the 49 heavenly tribulations and ascended. Was he only a stage 1 mystic immortal? In addition, he was still unclear about the use of the 2 immortal herbs, the spirit-nurturing grass, and the rain flower. At this moment, a series of footsteps came from outside the door. Su Zimo frowned slightly. Could it be that Duan Tianliang was so anxious that he came to find trouble with him so quickly? Little brother? At this moment, the person had already walked to the door. He knocked lightly on the door and called out. Su Zimo was slightly startled and said, Come in. The person pushed the door and entered. The person had a dark face and a simple and honest expression. It was one of the people who just now were watching and had helped Su Zimo put in a good word for him a few times. Su Zimo had some impression of this person. When the person saw Su Zimo, who had removed the soil and was dressed neatly, he was also stunned. Little brother, I didn't expect you to be so young and so delicate. You look like a scholar. The person said with a smile. Then, the person seemed to have thought of something. He suddenly widened his eyes and asked doubtfully, Little brother, you're not injured? But just now. I'm only slightly injured. I've already recovered after taking Mrs. Elixir. Su Zimo waved the medicine bottle in his hand. Actually, that was only because of the powerful self-healing ability of Qinglian's true body. However, Su Zimo had experienced being hunted by the king of underworld clouds. He knew in his heart that the secret of Qinglian's true body must not be exposed after he ascended to the upper realm. Otherwise, he would attract endless killing intent. Su Zimo changed the topic and asked with cupped fists, Fellow Taoist, how should I address you? What are you here for? Heh. The person waved his hand and said, There aren't that many rules in Snowwind Ridge. You can just call me Old Yen. To put it nicely, I'm called a farmer, but I'm actually just a farmer. By the way, I'm still not sure what the essence nurturing grass and rain flower are for. Su Zimo followed Old Yan's words and asked. These 2 immortal herbs are used to refine an immortal elixir called the essence formation elixir. Old Yan said, Normal breathing and inhaling to absorb the essence chi of heaven and earth would slow one's cultivation. Consuming the essence formation elixir can help one condense essence chi and speed up one's cultivation. I see. Su Zimo's eyes flickered with a hint of realization. Back when the experts of the upper realm descended to Tianhuang region and were killed by Daiyu, she had given him quite a number of essence formation elixirs. Those essence formation elixirs were now in the hands of Wu Dao's actual body. Upon having this thought, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. He decided to find a time to establish a connection with Wu Dao's actual body. Old Yin said, Young man, you've just ascended. There are many differences between the upper realm and the lower realm. I'll tell you in advance, so that you won't be taken advantage of. Thank you so much. Su Zimo immediately cupped his fists and thanked him. He was worried that no one would be able to answer the questions in his heart. Old Yen said, "Cultivating in the upper realm requires one to absorb the essence qi of heaven and earth. Different martial arts have different effects. The space of the upper realm is extremely stable, and the ground is sturdier too. It's impossible to tear the space apart like in the lower realm." Su Zimo nodded. When he first descended, he had already sensed something strange. Old Yen thought for a moment and said, "By the way, in the upper realm, mystic immortals like us can't use the blood drop rebirth technique. You must be careful. Not to mention the blood drop rebirth technique. Even the rebirth of a broken arm can only be done by the legendary earth immortal experts." Hearing this, Su Zimo thought of the dragon phoenix true body that was destroyed by the Cloud Underworld King, and his eyes turned cold. 2K Reading Network. Chapter 1794. Old Yen, are all the cultivators in Snow Wind Ridge ascended from the lower realm? Su Zimo asked. Of course, Old Yen said. Not to mention Snow Wind Ridge, there aren't many native exalted immortals in the entire Dragon Abyss planet. These native exalted immortals are also in Dragon Abyss City. Oh right. Old Yen seemed to have thought of something and said, "It doesn't matter how we address each other, but if you go out and see someone with a higher cultivation than you still have to address them as exalted immortals." Sigh, I've seen it with my own eyes. Someone was killed on the spot, just because he addressed the other party as fellow Taoist. Old Yen shook his head and sighed at the mention of this. Su Zimo pondered for a while and asked with a frown, "Why are almost all the people on Dragon Abyss planet ascended? You've just ascended, so you don't know." At the mention of this, a hint of melancholy flashed across Old Yan's eyes. Dragon Abyss planet is the most remote planet in Azure Cloud County. The heaven-earth yuan qi is thin. In the eyes of the native exalted immortals, we ascended from the lower realm are nothing. Anyone who ascends after passing the 19th heavenly tribulation will ascend to these remote and desolate planets. I heard that only those who have passed the 29th heavenly tribulation, 39th heavenly tribulation, and 49th heavenly tribulation are qualified to cultivate in other places in Azure Cloud County. What's the difference in the number of heavenly tribulations? Su Zimo asked again. There's a huge difference. Old Yen said. Normally, after passing the 19th heavenly tribulation and ascending to the upper realm, as long as one stays in the upper realm for a period of time to adapt to the environment of the upper realm and merge with the surrounding heaven-earth yuan qi, one's cultivation realm will stabilize. That's a stage 1 mystic immortal. And so on. After passing the 29th heavenly tribulation and stabilizing their cultivation realm, they will be a stage 2 mystic immortal. Those who can pass the 49th heavenly tribulation and ascend to the upper realm will be a stage 4 mystic immortal, the same as young Mistress and Commander Liang. Hearing this, a flash of understanding flashed through Su Zimo's mind. Normally, after passing the 49th heavenly tribulation and ascending to the upper realm, he should be a stage 4 mystic immortal. However, his ascension process was forcefully interrupted. King then. He hid in the bronze square cauldron and was swallowed by the black hole. But in that black hole, there was not even air, spiritual energy, or any other substance, let alone heaven and earth yuan qi. Therefore, his cultivation remained at the first level of the profound immortal realm. Now, he had already ascended to the upper realm and descended on the Dragon Abyss planet. According to Elder Yen, so long as he stayed on Dragon Abyss star for a period of time and resonated with the spirit energy of the heavens and the earth and the surroundings, his cultivation would rise swiftly and attain the 4th level of the mysterious immortal realm. It was also precisely because a rank 1 mystic immortal would ascend to a remote star, like the Dragon Abyss star, that Xia Qingying and the others had the first impression that Su Zimo had only transcended the 19th heavenly tribulation. The upper realm is vast and filled with heaven and earth essence qi everywhere. Why is the heaven and earth essence qi on Long Yuan planet so thin? Su Zimo frowned slightly. I don't know. Lao Yin shook his head and said, "Actually, we are just some people who have been abandoned. Those high and mighty exalted immortals have never taken us, who have just ascended from the lower realms seriously. They have left us to fend for ourselves here. Brother Su, come with me," Lao Yin suddenly said as he walked out of the door and looked up at the sky in the distance. Su Zimo followed his gaze. "Brother Su, do you see it?" Lao Yin pointed to the end of the sky and said, "There is a huge shadow over there. I heard that the Azure Cloud County is there. The heaven and earth essence Qi. There is 10 times denser than the Dragon Abyss star." When Su Zimo escaped from the black hole in the starry sky, he had seen the huge shadow at a close distance. It was so vast that it covered the sky and the sun, and it was extremely shocking. Every cultivator who has ascended to the Dragon Abyss star wishes to leave this place and head to the legendary Azure Cloud County. "Why don't they leave?" Su Zimo asked. Lao Yin smiled bitterly and said, "The Dragon Abyss star and that place are separated by a vast starry sky. Only the legendary heavenly immortal realm experts can cross the starry sky." Su Zimo was shocked. Could it be that to leave the Dragon Abyss star, one had to cultivate to the heavenly immortal realm? Lao Yin said, "Of course, I heard that there is a teleportation formation in the Dragon Abyss city that can teleport people there. However, the conditions for teleportation are too harsh. Most people on the Dragon Abyss star can't do that even if they spend their entire lives." When this was mentioned, a trace of sadness flashed past Lao Yan's eyes. "Back in the day, in the lower realm where I came from, I was the infamous King of Hell. Everyone said that I was the reincarnation of the King of Hell." Lao Yin smiled bitterly and said, "But after ascending to the upper realm, I still ended up like this." Su Zimo was silent. Just as Lao Yin said, which one of those who could ascend was easy to deal with? Every one of them was a genius from the lower realm. However, after ascending, these people were abandoned on this remote star. The heaven and earth essence Qi was thin, and their cultivation speed was slow. Even their willpower gradually declined, and was no longer the same as before. "Lao Yin, how long has it been since you ascended?" Su Zimo asked. Lao Yin revealed a look of reminiscence. After a while he said in disappointment, "Almost. It's been more than 10,000 years." After more than 10,000 years, Lao Yin had only stopped at the first stage of the mystic immortal realm. The situation on the Dragon Abyss star was worse than Su Zimo had imagined. Lao Yin said, "100,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. I guess I won't have the chance to leave in this lifetime." After ascending to the upper realm, Su Zimo could sense that his lifespan didn't change much. It was still 100,000 years. Su Zimo said, "If that's the case, there's really nothing good about the upper realm. After ascending, your lifespan didn't increase. Instead, you were abandoned on this desolate star. It's better to be invincible in the lower realm and live freely. It's different." Hearing this, Lao Yan's eyes suddenly lit up and bloomed with a bright light. His entire person became spirited, and just now, his decadence and depression were swept away. "Brother Su, do you know that babies born in the upper realm are born with the heaven and earth essence Qi? They start cultivating from the first stage of the mystic immortal realm. Babies born in the upper realm have a much higher foundation than those in the lower realm. Their future achievements will also far surpass mine. Let me tell you, when the descendants of those immortals descend, I don't know how many heavenly treasures are used to nourish and temper their flesh and bones. There's also a high-grade spirit condensation cultivation technique to shape their primordial spirit." Lao Yin said with a smile, "To tell you the truth, my son has just turned 2 months old. I plan to save up some soul condensation pills. Even if I don't have any heavenly treasures, I'll still exchange them for a primordial spirit condensation cultivation technique to lay a good foundation for him. Although I have no hope of leaving the Dragon Abyss star in this lifetime, I hope that he can go out and explore the Azure Cloud County." When he mentioned this, Lao Yin became excited. Su Zimo also smiled slightly. At this moment, the middle-aged man in front of him wasn't the Hell Emperor, who dominated the lower realm. Nor was he Lao Yin. He was just a father. Chapter 1795. Let's not talk about this anymore. Old Yin came back to his senses and said with a smile, "When I have time, I'll bring my son here for you to take a look. His eyebrows and eyes look like mine, huh?" "Sure." Su Zimo replied with a smile. Old Yin said, "Let's talk business. You've offended Fatty Duan, and he'll definitely cause you trouble in the future. You have to be careful. But don't worry, the people of Snow Wind Ridge can't kill each other. At most, he'll find fault with you and beat you up. Just bear with it. There's no need to lower yourself to his level." Su Zimo smiled but did not say anything. Old Yin took out 2 jade scrolls from his storage bag and placed them between his eyebrows for a while before handing them to Su Zimo. "These are 2 minor immortal arts from the upper realm, the art of bewitching and the art of flora. Keep them and learn them as soon as possible so that you can be prepared." Su Zimo took the 2 jade scrolls and scanned them with his divine consciousness. There were indeed 2 immortal arts in the jade scrolls. With Su Zimo's knowledge, he could already guess what they were after a quick glance. The art of bewitching was actually a technique to summon clouds and summon rain, to irrigate the spiritual fields. The art of flora was even simpler. It was to remove the weeds in the spiritual fields, and use the essence of the weeds to nourish the 2 immortal herbs and accelerate their maturation. Although the art of bewitching and the art of flora are immortal arts from the upper realm, they have many similarities with the Dharma arts from the lower realm. Old Yin said, "It's not difficult for us to cultivate these 2 immortal arts. Back then, I only cultivated them for a year and mastered them." Su Zimo nodded. These 2 immortal arts were very simple. He had already comprehended most of them after a short conversation. "Actually, planting these dozen mu of spiritual fields is nothing," Old Yin said. "Simply put, planting the seeds is nothing more than watering, removing weeds, looking after them and waiting for them to mature." "How long will it take for the 2 immortal herbs to mature?" Su Zimo asked. Old Yin exhaled deeply and said, "100 years." "What?" Su Zimo was shocked. It would take 100 years for the 2 types of immortal herbs to mature. In other words, he would also have to wait for 100 years for the core condensing pill. After all, the cultivation time in the upper realm could easily last for 1,000 years. It was common for some ascendant immortals to enter secluded cultivation for tens of thousands of years. Lao Yin smiled bitterly and said, "There's nothing we can do about it. The natural energies on the Dragon Abyss planet are thin, and the growth rate of the immortal herbs is extremely slow. I heard that under the jurisdiction of the Azure Cloud County, the immortal herbs would mature much faster in areas with dense heaven and earth yuan qi." Su Zimo was silent. No wonder Old Yin was still stuck at the first level of the mystic immortal realm, even after 10,000 years. Most of the others were level 1 or 2 mystic immortals. The heaven and earth origin energy on the Dragon Abyss planet was scarce to begin with. In addition to the slow growth of immortal herbs and the scarcity of cultivation resources, the speed of cultivation naturally could not be increased. Old Yin thought for a moment and said, "Of course, we have to be careful when the immortal herb is about to mature. Don't let any random creatures or bandits steal the immortal herb." "A bunch of random creatures?" Su Zimo frowned slightly. Old Yin said, "Most of the people on the Dragon Abyss planet are from the human race. Of course, there are a few other races that have ascended, but they are few in number. There's no need to worry. Wind Snow Ridge has guards patrolling day and night. If there are any intruders, just shout loudly." With the strength of the Wind Snow Ridge, they can easily be beaten away by some small thieves. I've been out for a while. I have to go back and take care of my spiritual field. Old Yin pointed to the east and said, "My place is not far from here. If you have any questions, you can find me there." "Okay." Su Zimo nodded. Su Zimo sent Old Yin away and turned to enter the house. He sat cross-legged on the bamboo bed. There were still many questions in his heart that had not been solved. Su Zimo pondered for a moment, then took out the bronze square cauldron from his storage bag and observed it carefully. He landed on the Wind Snow Ridge of the Dragon Abyss planet and temporarily settled down. He could not help but recall his experience in the black hole. The bronze square cauldron had devoured the weapon of an expert and one of its walls had already been repaired. On the inner wall of the cauldron, the Wisdom Nirvana Sutra was carved. On the outer wall, a lifelike divine dragon was carved. It was green in color and spiraled with its head raised, sharp claws and fangs. However, the eyes of the divine dragon were closed, and it looked like it lacked a hint of liveliness and vitality. He still did not know how he escaped from the black hole. However, before he escaped, he seemed to have heard a loud and clear dragon roar in his daze. Could it have something to do with the divine dragon on the bronze square cauldron? Su Zimo murmured softly. After pondering for a long time, he still could not figure it out. Su Zimo tried to call out to Wu Dao's true body in his heart. He could vaguely sense the existence of Wu Dao's true body. However, the latter did not respond. There was a high chance that he was busy refining the Dragon Phoenix true body and could not be distracted. Su Zimo put this matter aside for the time being and put away the bronze square cauldron, beginning to cultivate. He had to connect with the surrounding heaven and earth essence chi as soon as possible to recover his cultivation realm. Once his cultivation realm recovered to the level of a mystic immortal, he would be able to protect himself in Snow Wind Ridge, at the very least. Soon night fell. In the spirit field, frogs croaked and cicadas chirped from time to time, making this long night seem even quieter. Early in the morning, Su Zimo let out a long breath and opened his eyes. Two resplendent divine lights shot out from his eyes and were quickly retracted. Level 2 Mystic Essence Realm. In just a single night, Su Zimo's cultivation realm had already recovered to the level of a mystic immortal. At this speed, it would not take much time for him to recover to the level of a mystic immortal. Su Zimo took a deep breath and closed his eyes, continuing to absorb and refine the surrounding heaven and earth essence chi. Right then, Su Zimo's ears twitched as he heard footsteps. The footsteps were rather heavy and headed straight for his straw hut. It was clearly different from the footsteps of Lao Yin yesterday. Su Zimo frowned. Bang! There was a loud bang. The door was violently kicked open. A round-faced fatty stood at the door, almost blocking the entire door. He looked sideways at Su Zimo with an unfriendly expression. It was Duan Tianliang. After just one night, Duan Tianliang could not hold it in anymore. Hey, country bumpkin! Duan Tianliang raised his head slightly and scolded. Don't play dead there. Get up and go plant the immortal herbs in the spirit field. These are the seeds of 2 types of immortal herbs. Go quickly, don't dawdle. As he spoke, Duan Tianliang threw a storage bag on the ground. Su Zimo slowly opened his eyes and looked at Duan Tianliang quietly. His eyes were deep and bright, but he did not say a word. For some reason, Duan Tianliang suddenly felt a chill in his heart when he was stared at by that pair of eyes. It was as if he was not facing a person who had just ascended, but an extremely terrifying and powerful existence, a terrifying and bloodthirsty beast. Duan Tianliang closed his eyes and shook his head, as if trying to get rid of this illusion. Actually, this was not Duan Tianliang's illusion. Now, Su Zimo's primordial spirit was not only the Qinglian primordial spirit, but also the Dragon Phoenix primordial spirit. That was indeed a terrifying taboo creature. Not to mention Duan Tianliang. If it were any other powerful creatures, they would also feel their hearts tremble when Su Zimo stared at them like this. 2K Reading Network. Chapter 1796. Duan Tianliang suppressed the uneasiness in his heart and glared back. He gritted his teeth and said, "Damn it, what are you looking at? I told you to go and farm. Didn't you hear me?" Su Zimo looked calm and said lightly, "What if I don't want to go?" He planned to stay in Snow Wind Ridge for the time being, but he did not want to go and farm. At least for now, he only wanted to recover his cultivation as soon as possible. "You have to go even if you don't want to." Duan Tianliang's face darkened and he said coldly, "In Snow Wind Ridge, I have the final say. It's not up to you." Su Zimo did not answer, and moved his divine consciousness. The door creaked and closed slowly. For some reason, Duan Tianliang felt a chill down his spine. "What are you doing?" Duan Tianliang shouted. Su Zimo was silent. In the small cottage, the atmosphere became a little strange and oppressive. "Don't play tricks in front of me." If you don't listen to me, I'll show you who's boss. Duan Tianliang finally could not take it anymore. He stepped forward and reached out his hand to slap Su Zimo's face. Swoosh! Duan Tianliang had just moved when he felt a blur in front of him. Before he could react, he felt that his fat body was floating in the air. The next moment, he felt an extremely painful suffocation. Unknowingly, Su Zimo had leaped down from the bed and arrived before him in a flash. Grabbing him by the throat, Su Zimo lifted him up from the ground. Duan Tianliang's eyes widened and his face turned red. He looked panicked. Against Su Zimo's palm, he could not even muster a single bit of strength. He felt that his throat was not being held by a hand but a hard and cold iron hoop. As long as the iron hoop tightened even a little, his throat would be directly crushed. How can this be? Duan Tianliang was confused. How could a newly ascended Stage 1 Mystic Immortal have such power? No, he was not a Stage 1 Mystic Immortal. Duan Tianliang subconsciously used his divine consciousness to check Su Zimo. Stage 2 Mystic Immortal. This time, Duan Tianliang was shocked. On this Dragon Lake star, due to the sparse spirit energy of the heavens and the earth, and the scarcity of cultivation resources, it was extremely difficult to advance a level. In Snowwind Ridge, if anyone could make a breakthrough, the news would spread throughout the entire Snowwind Ridge. Su Zimo had just ascended, and it had only been a night. Duan Tianliang never expected that Su Zimo's cultivation level would rise to the second level of the mystic origin realm. It wasn't until he fell into Su Zimo's hands, his life hanging by a thread, that he finally reacted. He couldn't help but be horrified, his mind greatly shaken. He was no longer in the mood to think about how Su Zimo's cultivation had increased by a whole realm in just one night. Right now, he was only thinking about how to survive. What do you want? Duan Tianliang stamped his feet and said with difficulty, I want to cultivate in peace for a while. Don't disturb me. Su Zimo said faintly. As for the spiritual field outside, how about you help me plant it? Okay, I'll plant it. Duan Tianliang agreed without hesitation. If the person in front of him crushed his throat, his flesh would be completely crippled. Even if his essence spirit escaped, he wouldn't have the chance to reform his physical body. Okay. Su Zimo released his palm and put Duan Tianliang down. Duan Tianliang staggered back a few steps and leaned against the tightly shut door. He clutched his chest and panted heavily. He seemed to be recovering, but in fact, he was glancing at Su Zimo from the corner of his eyes. As the Deacon of Snowwind Ridge, he was also a Stage 2 Mystic Immortal. How could he be easily controlled by others? Furthermore, it was someone who had just ascended. I was captured just now, because I was careless. I didn't expect this kid to have the strength of a Stage 2 Mystic Immortal. Duan Tianliang lowered his head slightly. His expression was uncertain as he thought to himself. If I use my mystic grade Dharma treasure, I can definitely suppress this kid. This kid has just ascended. All he has is some scrap metal from the lower realm. It's impossible for him to have a mystic grade Dharma treasure. If I can't suppress this kid today, won't he ride on my head in the future? Where will I put my face then? How can I survive in Snowwind Ridge in the future? At this thought, Duan Tianliang made a decision. Duan Tianliang lowered his head and made up his mind. Su Zimo didn't say anything and only looked at Duan Tianliang with a faint smile. Finally, Duan Tianliang raised his head. His eyes were wide open as he shouted, Kid, I'll let you see the means of an immortal today. Duan Tianliang's chubby hand patted on his storage bag and took out a black brick the size of a face. Duan Tianliang circulated his primordial qi, and a pattern flashed on the black brick. Its aura increased greatly and immortal light lingered around it. It was quite extraordinary. Go! Duan Tianliang threw the black brick into the air and pointed at Su Zimo. The black brick smashed down aggressively towards Su Zimo's shoulder. Regardless of their status, the cultivators of Snowwind Ridge could not kill each other casually. Duan Tianliang did not dare to kill him. Moreover, he only wanted to show Su Zimo who was in his power. Su Zimo remained motionless and looked at the descending black brick calmly. This is the heavy brick. Your physical body is very strong, but no matter how strong it is, Can it resist my mystic-grade Dharma treasure? Duan Tianliang saw that Su Zimo seemed to be scared silly, and couldn't help but look smug. He laughed and said, "You bumpkin, eat my brick." Then, he saw a scene and the smile on his face froze instantly. Su Zimo suddenly stretched out his hand, and took the aggressive heavy brick, that was surrounded by black light. He held it in his palm and looked at it carefully. Duan Tianliang was stunned and his smile disappeared. Then, Duan Tianliang saw another scene and was scared out of his wits. Your immortal methods are only SOSO. Su Zimo held the heavy brick and weighed it in his hand. Then, he held both sides of the heavy brick and began to knead it. In the blink of an eye, just now, the square heavy brick was kneaded into a black iron ball under Duan Tianliang's gaze. Duan Tianliang's eyeballs almost fell out. In the upper realm, mystic immortals, earth immortals, and heaven immortals corresponded to 3 grades of Dharma treasures. They were mystic grade, earth grade, and heaven grade. Each grade corresponded to a different quality. This was similar to the lower realm. They were divided into inferior grade, middle grade, superior grade, supreme grade, perfect grade, and innate grade. Although Duan Tianliang's heavy brick was only inferior grade of mystic grade, it took him 20,000 years of accumulation to exchange for it. One had to know that many deacons in Snow Wind Ridge did not even have inferior grade of mystic grade Dharma treasures. Duan Tianliang treated this heavy brick as a treasure and would not reveal it easily. When he just exchanged for it, it attracted the envy of many people. But now, the heavy brick was gone, and only a black heavy ball was left. Chapter 1797. Su Zimo's current Qinglian true body was much stronger than any mystic low-grade Dharma treasure, even if he did not use any blood qi. This mystic low-grade Dharma treasure was like soft mud in his palm, that he could pinch at will. Su Zimo weighed the black metal ball in his hand, and looked at Duan Tianliang playfully with a faint smile on his face. Su Zimo was smiling. However, Duan Tianliang was about to cry. He had never expected that a person who had just ascended, a country bumpkin who did not know anything, would be such a ruthless character. If this person wanted to pinch him to death, it would probably be as easy as pinching a chick to death. Even a level 3 or level 4 mystic immortal would not be able to do such a thing, right? Boss Su, I was wrong. Duan Tianliang fell to his knees with a thud and bowed his head. The path of cultivation, no matter which world it was in, was not a heaven-defying act. Every step was dangerous. He was able to cultivate to this stage and ascend to the upper realm because he was flexible and adaptable. To him, dignity and whatnot were just worldly possessions. Staying alive was the most important thing. In his life, he had bowed to countless people and been trampled on by countless people. However, in the end, he was the one who had the last laugh and ascended to the upper realm. Boss Su, I was blind to not know your methods. Duan Tianliang slapped himself hard and said, I really overestimated myself and did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. I actually dared to brandish my sword in front of you. You are the bright stars in the night sky, the bright full moon. My methods are like the light of a grain of rice. Duan Tianliang did not even think about these flattering words, and blurted them out, as if he had said them countless times. Su Zimo was unmoved and looked indifferent. Those who could ascend to the upper realm, even if they only survived the 19th heavenly tribulation, were peerless geniuses of the lower realm. How could they submit to others so easily? Su Zimo's gaze was deep as he said faintly, You'd better not play any tricks. If I find out, I'll need you into the same as this. Su Zimo pointed at the black metal ball in his hand. Duan Tianliang was so scared that he trembled all over and looked terrified. Originally, he really did have some other thoughts. He wanted to escape from this place first before making any other plans. But now, hearing this, Duan Tianliang was really scared. Boss Su, you must be joking. How is that possible? Duan Tianliang hurriedly said. From now on, I will follow your lead. If you tell me to go east, I will never go west. Sure. Su Zimo nodded and said, Go help me plant the 10 or so mu of spiritual fields outside. Duan Tianliang's expression froze. Ever since he broke through to the second level of the mystic origin realm, and was promoted to a deacon. He had never personally farmed. What? You don't want to? Su Zimo raised his eyebrows. I'm willing. Duan Tianliang shuddered and blurted out. I'm so willing. This kind of farming should be done by me. To be able to gain Boss Su's trust is a supreme honor. All right, if there's nothing urgent, don't disturb me during this time. Su Zimo said lightly, and casually tossed the black metal ball in his hand to Duan Tianliang. Duan Tianliang caught it, and a trace of pain flashed through the depths of his eyes. A good mystic low-grade Dharma treasure had now become such a huge metal ball. You may leave. Su Zimo waved his sleeves gently and floated back to the bamboo bed. Duan Tianliang felt as though he had been pardoned. As he retreated, he muttered, My ancestors' graves are really smoking to be able to get the chance to farm for Boss Su. I'm really lucky and have no regrets in this life. Soon, Duan Tianliang left Su Zimo's straw hut and gently closed the door. The flattery on his face disappeared instantly, and his gaze turned gloomy. Duan Tianliang stared fixedly at the door, his expression changing, and his mood was uncertain. After a while, Duan Tianliang closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and turned to leave. He was still unconvinced. However, the situation was pressing, and he planned to endure it for the time being and look for another opportunity. Duan Tianliang came to the destroyed spiritual field and gritted his teeth. He bent down, raised his big buttocks and began to plant. It was already noon. Many medicine farmers in Snow Wind Ridge had already gotten up and went to the spiritual fields under their jurisdiction to investigate. Some cast spells to summon rain, while others removed weeds. Isn't that Fatty Duan? Strange that spiritual field should be planted by the new brother Su. Why is Fatty Duan working in the field personally? The medicine farmers who saw this scene were all astonished, clicking their tongues in wonder. The news spread like wildfire. Soon, all the nearby herbalists heard about it and ran over to watch the show. Deacon Duan, why are you planting in the field personally? This spiritual field should belong to Brother Su, right? Another deacon of Snow Wind Ridge could not help but ask. Duan Tianliang looked at Su Zimo's straw hut with resentment. He was extremely obedient in front of Su Zimo, but he did not want to admit it in front of others. Duan Tianliang coughed softly and said, This new brother is seriously injured and can't move freely. I don't know how long it will take for him to recover. Snow Wind Ridge is a family. As a deacon of Snow Wind Ridge, it's only right for me to help him plant in advance. In public, the earlier we plant these two immortal herbs, the earlier they mature. It's a good thing for Snow Wind Ridge and everyone. Duan Tianliang's words were affectionate and righteous, which moved everyone. However, these words coming out of Duan Tianliang's mouth seemed a little strange. Did Fatty Duan take the wrong medicine? I don't know what's wrong with him. Why is he being so kind? Many medicine farmers whispered. That's not right. At this moment, Lao Yin rushed over and said, I just came back from Brother Su's place yesterday. He ate the young lady's elixir, and his injuries are healed. F***CK. Duan Tianliang cursed in his heart, and wanted to stuff the 10,000 caddy ball in his storage bag into Lao Yan's mouth. Brother Su only recovered from his external injuries, but his internal injuries still need some time to recuperate. Duan Tianliang braced himself and explained, Lao Duan. Another deacon walked up and said, Let me take a look at your 10,000 caddy brick again. I've saved up some core condensation pills this time, and I'm going to exchange them for a mystic grade inferior grade Dharma treasure. Get lost. Lao Duan's face darkened, and he cursed at the mention of that. The deacon was dumbfounded. Duan Tianliang looked at the crowd with an ugly expression and scolded, Disperse, disperse. What are you all looking at? Don't you need to take care of your own spirit fields? Many medicine farmers shook their heads and dispersed. The deacon was confused and did not know why he was rebuffed. If it were any other day, Fatty Duan would have taken out that treasure proudly and flaunted it in front of everyone. Su Zimo sat in the straw hut. The hearing of the Green Lotus true body was astonishing. He had clearly heard what Duan Tianliang had said in the spiritual field. However, he did not expose him. As long as Duan Tianliang did not play any tricks, Su Zimo did not care about such things. Now the most important thing for him was to recover his cultivation as soon as possible. Chapter 1798. It was not a small project to plant the 2 types of immortal herbs in more than 10 mu of spirit fields. Duan Tianliang worked for half a day before planting the thousands of immortal herb seeds in more than 10 mu of spirit fields. He was so tired that he was drenched in sweat. Night fell. At this time, the other herb farmers had already returned to rest. It had been a long time since Duan Tianliang had expended so much energy. His entire body was aching. Coupled with the mental blow he received from Su Zimo, he felt physically and mentally exhausted. He sat down on the spirit field and looked at the straw hut in the distance with a bitter expression. He spat fiercely. "Damn it, one day, I'll trample you under my feet." Duan Tianliang cursed softly. He did not care about the mud on the ground and lay down on his back. Looking at the twinkling stars in the sky, Duan Tianliang felt a wave of fatigue. His eyelids grew heavy, and he fell into a deep sleep in the spirit field. Su Zimo cultivated in the straw hut and continuously comprehended the Prajna Nirvana Sutra on the bronze square tripod, while absorbing the surrounding heaven and earth essence chi. The Prajna Nirvana Sutra was extremely profound. Although it was not complete, Su Zimo could not fully comprehend it given his current attainments in Buddhism. He could only comprehend that this mystic technique was more inclined towards the cultivation of the essence spirit. It was also because of this that the power condensed from this mystic technique could neutralize yin and yang, allowing the 2 essence spirits of the dragon phoenix and Qinglian to fuse together. Strange, Su Zimo thought to himself. The Prajna Nirvana Sutra is clearly a mystic sutra of the Buddhist sections. Why would it be engraved in this bronze square tripod? Could it be that the owner of this bronze tripod was once an expert of the Buddhist sects? Then, what's with the divine dragon engraved on the outer wall of this bronze square tripod? Those doubts flashed through Su Zimo's mind, but he did not think too much about it. He only tried his best to absorb the heaven and earth essence chi to recover his cultivation. The heaven and earth essence chi was formless like air. However, if a top expert of the upper world descended in the sky above Dragon Abyss Planet, he would definitely be able to sense that the heaven and earth essence chi around Dragon Abyss Planet was gathering towards an inconspicuous straw hut in Snow Wind Ridge. The grass hut was like a giant whirlpool that constantly spun. Like a whale swallowing a cow, it swallowed and absorbed the surrounding heaven-earth yuan chi. At the end of the distant sky, the yuan chi on the huge shadow in the starry sky seemed to be gathering towards the Dragon Abyss Planet. Naturally, Xian immortals would not be able to detect such a change. However, if someone were to walk into Su Zimo's room at this moment, they would definitely be shocked. Su Zimo's figure had long disappeared from the hut, replaced by a green Qinglian swaying gently. The lotus leaves were sparkling and translucent like jade. The pink lotus blossomed, and immortal dew condensed on the 81 lotus petals. Rays of resplendent light gushed out from the lotus platform. During this process, Su Zimo had a strange feeling. It was as if he had transformed into the Qinglian of creation, crazily plundering and absorbing the heaven and earth yuan chi. At that instant, it was as if his divine sense had turned into thousands of densely packed roots that spread out in all directions. In fact, he could even clearly sense the immortal herb seeds that had just been planted in the dozens of mu of spirit fields. When the immortal herb seeds sensed his spirit consciousness, they seemed to possess spirituality and exuded a sense of joy and submission. It was an extremely strange feeling. Su Zimo was immersed in it. Unknowingly, the night passed by in the blink of an eye. The skies brightened. Duan Tianliang stretched lazily and sat up with sleepy eyes. Because he had just woken up, his expression was still a little dazed. After sitting quietly for a while, he gradually snapped back to his senses. Damn it, I actually slept on the spirit fields for the entire night. Duan Tianliang cursed and patted his buttocks, preparing to get up. All of a sudden, Duan Tianliang's gaze froze. In his line of sight, on the spiritual field beneath him, there were actually emerald green sprouts that were neatly arranged. Did I oversleep? I'm hallucinating now. Duan Tianliang mumbled, and shook his head vigorously. He rubbed his eyes again before opening them to look. Duan Tianyang's pupils constricted gradually. He turned around hurriedly and surveyed his surroundings. Without exception, sprouts were growing one after another on the dozens of mu of spirit fields around him, brimming with life. This. Duan Tianliang was dumbfounded. One had to know that he had only just planted the immortal herb seeds in the spiritual field below him. In just a single night, all of those seeds had sprouted and broken out of the ground. Duan Tianliang had stayed in Snow Wind Ridge for more than 10,000 years and started off as a medicine farmer. Bit by bit, he reached where he was today and was extremely familiar with the ripening patterns of immortal herbs. Heaven and Earth essence chi was thin on Dragon Abyss planet. The two types of immortal herbs grew slowly and required 100 years for them to mature completely. As for the essence nurturing grass and rain flower, it would take close to a year for them to sprout and break out of the ground. However, in just a single night, both types of immortal herbs had sprouted. What the F***ck? If not for the fact that Duan Tianliang had planted the spirit fields personally, he would definitely not have believed that what he was seeing was real. What's going on? Duan Tianliang frowned and pondered. Could it be that I'm the reincarnation of some exalted immortal, and am starting to gather providence now? I can create such an immortal miracle with a casual move? He could not figure it out no matter how he thought about it. A long time later, Duan Tianliang snapped out of his daze, and was pleasantly surprised to discover that his cultivation realm had improved as well. Even though he had yet to step into the third level of the mystic origin stage, a single night's time was equivalent to 100 days of cultivation. Duan Tianyang's eyes shone with excitement. If I continue cultivating at this speed, I'll be able to break through to level 3 mystic essence realm before long. Duan Tianliang glared at the straw hut in the distance and gritted his teeth. Su Zimo, I'll teach you a lesson when the time comes. What boss Su? Bullshasters T. Before long, the sky was bright. Many medicine farmers who passed by noticed the scene in the spirit fields, and were so shocked that their jaws nearly dropped to the ground. That's not right. Fatty Duan just planted this spirit field yesterday. I saw it with my own eyes. Fatty Duan, what's going on? Why are the immortal herbs in your spiritual field growing so fast? Damn, this is an immortal miracle. Many medicine farmers were shocked. Duan Tianliang stood on the spirit fields with his head held high and his chest puffed out. He looked into the distance with an unfathomable expression and said calmly, "It's just a little trick. You don't have to make a fuss." Deacon Duan, what's going on? Another deacon, Feng Shuling, could not help but ask. Fatty Duan, did you use some kind of trick? Another person shouted. Duan Tianliang looked displeased. He flicked his sleeves and said, "These seeds were planted by me personally. Naturally, they contain great opportunities and great luck. How can ordinary people like you speculate?" Everyone was dumbfounded. Sigh. Duan Tianliang sighed deeply and said, "I haven't planted for a long time. My technique is a little rusty. These herbs are still growing slower." Everyone was dumbfounded by his words. Although they felt that Duan Tianliang's words were ridiculous, what they saw was what they saw. However, the scene before his eyes was indeed real. It could not be faked. Chapter 1799. After the hubbub, everyone gradually dispersed. Duan Tianliang was in the limelight once again among the many medicine farmers and wardens. He could not help but blush and rejoice internally. However, he calmed down very quickly. That was because he knew that although he was the one who planted those immortal herb seeds personally, the emerald green shoots that grew overnight should have nothing to do with him. It was as though the essence chi that gathered in the dozens of mu of spirit fields suddenly became richer overnight, allowing the two immortal herbs to grow rapidly. Strange. Duan Tianliang rubbed his chin in puzzlement. There was no way he could connect it to Su Zimo. Even Earth Immortals or Heaven Immortals could not do something like that, let alone someone who had just descended from the lower realm. Duan Tianliang decided to continue guarding this place to investigate. At the same time, Su Zimo sensed what was happening outside and gradually understood. The creation Qinglian was an utmost treasure that stole the creation of heaven and earth. His Qinglian true body was already at grade 9 and was considered to be at an extremely high level. Stealing the essence qi of heaven and earth was nothing. If Su Zimo wanted to, he could absorb all the life force essence of the immortal herbs within a radius of 5 kilometers and refine it directly. The creation Qinglian was the paragon of plants and vegetation. Of course, with that, all the immortal herbs within a radius of 5 kilometers would wither. It was daytime, and there were many medicine farmers coming and going. Out of caution, Su Zimo did not cultivate and absorb the essence qi of heaven and earth. Although the essence qi of heaven and earth was formless, once he cultivated, the essence qi in the surrounding dozens of mu of spirit fields would increase exponentially. It was clearly much richer than outside, and could be easily detected by others. This matter directly involved the creation Qinglian, and could not be exposed. The fewer people who knew, the better. Of course, Su Zimo did not idle either. Instead, he continued to comprehend the contents of the Perfection of Wisdom Nirvana Sutra. There were not many words in Sanskrit engraved on the wall of the tripod. However, every single word seemed to contain mysteries and contained the truths of heaven and earth. Before long night fell, the surrounding medicine farmers had already dispersed. Duan Tianliang was the only one left wandering around the spirit field. For the entire day, Duan Tianliang stared at the spiritual altar. In the end, he did not gain anything, nor did he see any abnormalities. He could not help but feel a little disappointed. However, after thinking about it, he was still unwilling to give up. Thus, he simply moved a bamboo chair and sat down in the spiritual field. Su Zimo was in the thatched hut. Sensing this scene, he pondered for a moment before deciding to cultivate and absorb the yuan qi of heaven and earth. It was impossible to hide this matter from everyone. Moreover, looking at Duan Tianliang's posture, it was obvious that he was prepared to guard the spiritual field at all times. It was impossible for Su Zimo to stop cultivating just because Duan Tianliang was here. However, Duan Tianliang was still under his control. Duan Tianliang leaned against the bamboo chair. At first he was still energetic, but as he looked up at the sky and listened to the croaking of frogs and cicadas, his vision gradually blurred and he fell asleep. Duan Tianliang had been thinking about this all along. Even if he fell asleep, he wouldn't feel at ease. In a trance, Duan Tianliang suddenly woke up. It was already late at night. Duan Tianliang suddenly felt that something was amiss. The yuan qi of heaven and earth around him had become extremely dense. Duan Tianliang's eyes widened, and he was instantly energized. He still couldn't believe it, and thought that it was his imagination. He even deliberately ran far away from the spiritual field. The yuan qi of heaven and earth and other places was still extremely thin. Only in this area of a dozen or so mu of spirit fields, the yuan qi was shockingly dense. Duan Tianliang looked at the 2 types of immortal herbs in the spiritual field. Only a few hours had passed, and the tender shoots of the 2 types of immortal herbs seemed to have grown a little taller. How could this be? Duan Tianliang's eyes flickered, and he looked bewildered. After pondering for a moment, he suddenly raised his head and looked at the ordinary-looking wooden hut in the middle of the spiritual field. Could it be? Duan Tianliang thought of a possibility, although this guess was a little too far-fetched. He had lived in Wind Snow Ridge for tens of thousands of years. There had never been such a strange situation before. But it had only happened after that person had ascended into the immortal world. In other words, this matter was most likely related to that person. This is a big deal. Duan Tianliang's gaze shifted, and he was prepared to report this matter to the territorial lord of Wind Snow Ridge overnight. Just as he turned around, he almost bumped into someone. Duan Tianliang took 2 steps back instinctively and was about to curse. However, when he saw that person, he could not help but be scared half to death. He swallowed the curses that were about to come out of his mouth. Su, boss Su, it's so late. Why did you come out? You scared me to death. There was a tremor in Duan Tianliang's voice. Cultivating here is beneficial to you, Su Zimo said slowly. That was definitely not a lie. Cultivating in such a dense yuan qi environment was equivalent to 100 days of effort. However, Su Zimo changed the topic and said, "There are some things that you shouldn't say. It's best to keep them to yourself." Of course. Duan Tianliang said hurriedly, "Don't worry, Boss Su. I'm a tight-lipped person." In fact, Duan Tianliang was already planning to leave this place alive and report this matter immediately. Su Zimo did not say much. He took a deep look at Duan Tianliang and turned to walk toward the wooden house. Duan Tianliang sneered and was about to leave. For some reason, his heart skipped a beat, and he spread out his divine senses to check on Su Zimo. Pust. After checking, Duan Tianliang could not help but gasp. Mystic Essence Stage 3. At that moment, Duan Tianliang's pupils constricted, and he had goosebumps all over his body. A day ago, this person was only a Stage 2 Mystic Immortal. Just a day later, this person was already a Stage 3 Mystic Immortal. What kind of cultivation speed was this? Could this person be the reincarnation of some exalted immortal? Duan Tianliang was shocked and fearful. Originally, he really intended to report this matter to his superiors. But now, when he recalled the meaningful look Su Zimo gave him before he left, he could not help but shudder. No. Duan Tianliang was secretly shocked. I'm afraid my every move has already been watched by this person. If I leave now, I'm afraid I'll die here. At that thought, Duan Tianliang let out a long sigh and returned to the spirit field obediently. No matter what, such a cultivation environment was indeed rare. This could be considered a blessing and a curse. With that thought, Duan Tianliang began to cultivate. In just a short night, his cultivation had improved by quite a bit. The immortal herbs in this spirit field grew rapidly, and the news soon spread in Snowwind Ridge. In the blink of an eye, a year had passed. Duan Tianliang watched as the immortal herbs in this spirit field grew faster and faster. The immortal herbs that originally took 100 years to mature were about to mature in just a year. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.